It's now time for The Sit Down with Don Tony.
The Sit Down, where Don Tony talks one-on-one with his followers.
What are you looking at?
About the world of pro wrestling, pop culture, and so much more.
The Sit Down with Don Tony.
And now, your host, Don Tony.
Triple H, that bastard, he stole it from me. I knew that we were going to talk about the return, the big return last night. R-Truth back on WWE television. When I heard Triple H say that last night to open up the press conference, I was like, shit, can't use that tonight. Guys, did you think it was going to happen in Survivor Series? I honestly did not. I just thought too soon. Road to WrestleMania is still quite a ways away. But as Triple H said yesterday in the press conference after Survivor Series went off the air, things got pushed together in just record time last week. Pretty much everything just fell into place. I wonder if Triple H at any point feared for his life yesterday when he was with CM Punk in a room all by themselves. CM Punk, the best kept secret, is back in the WWE. And let's also remember, Randy Orton is back as well. Double back fusion surgery. And did it look like he missed the beat yesterday? I would say no, because it was Survivor Series, War Games, and you don't necessarily have to do a lot of wrestling moves. That RKO to Jade McDonough, Jesus Christ. But Randy Orton's back as well. And I get it. I know there's a lot of people out there that are like, why show up Randy? 18 months back, Randy has been a WWE lifer. Like, why would I got news for you? We don't know how deep Randy Orton could go into matches. Look, I personally feel if Randy Orton could not go close to 100%, Randy Orton just would not return to the wrestling ring. But I think this takes a lot of the pressure off of Randy Orton last night. And, something that I got to talk about, and, obviously this is not going to circulate across YouTube, because I don't put clips up. Maybe I should start doing it. On the audio side of things on DonTony.com, we can't put clips. That would just make the website a mess. But, something that I hope people are starting to see. And look, we're not going to rip reporters tonight. We're not going to rip, or listen, if you want to get suckered on Twitter, by all means do so. But for that desperation of hits, how many of you have seen in the last 5 days, especially wrestling podcasts and websites saying, I will give away 2 WrestleMania tickets if CM Punk returns to Survivor Series? I will give away $1,000 if CM Punk returns to Survivor Series. Let's see if any of these people actually pay up. You know what they'll do? They'll do what used to be done 20 years ago. They'll come up with a fictitious name or a buddy of theirs on social media that'll go along with the joke and announce a winner. Nobody gets the prize. That's why we never really wanted to be involved in any award shows from back in the day. But, the thing is, when you look at what happened yesterday, okay, I want to make this point. The wrestling news media did not know that CM Punk was returning yesterday. I honestly didn't think it was going to happen. I thought and let me make this clear. I immediately went on Twitter yesterday and said, I am 1,000% ecstatic that I got it wrong. And I'll be the first to admit that. Listen, sometimes being wrong is a good thing because you expect the worst and then you get surprised. When was the last time we got surprised like this? I mean, legitimately surprised. Cody Rhodes at WrestleMania a couple of years ago, we pretty much knew that was happening. Randy Orton, it was leading up to it. We knew it was happening. But yesterday with CM Punk, I can't remember the last time. And I don't put The Rock showing up one day on SmackDown as an example of that. But, make no mistake about it. Triple H said something on the conference call, the media scrum last night afterwards that you really have to remember. TKO Group Holdings, the board of directors are the ones who sign the checks now. But they trust Triple H and Nick Khan to make decisions. They have to run it to TKO Group Holdings because, again, they're the ones that sign the checks. But outside of Nick Khan and Triple H and CM Punk, do you truthfully believe that there's anybody in the news world, podcasting world, that chums up with those individuals that they knew? So up until yesterday, people guessed. People made educated guesses. People assumed, and some people got it right. The ones that are saying my sources, those are the ones that you have to you trust the least because there are no sources. Nobody knew. But Triple H is doing something now very old school that despite what some games that some reporters do, listen closely because they're not going to just come out and say it to you, but you will see it in the wording. Triple H is going old school, and he's been going old school for a while. And it's not just Triple H's mentality. It's Cody Rhodes' mentality. It's CM Punk's mentality. It's a lot of the older, mindset out there that is not really with the Vince regime. Of course, we know what pro wrestling is. We know that it's sports entertainment. That has been instilled in our brains from the 80s and the 90s. And we know that the outcomes are predetermined. I mean, there's no escaping that. But walking that fine line where personal becomes clouded reality, that's what we are getting. Let me make this clear. Just use a little common sense. And I think 99.9% of you out there will agree with me on this. Do you think Triple H is going to blindside his world heavyweight champion, Seth Rollins, by not telling him that CM Punk was returning last night at Survivor Series? Do you think that Triple H is going to not tell his roster, who are very split about CM Punk? Some people think he is a cancer. It's not just Chris Jericho. It's not just Jack Perry. It's not just the Young Bucks, Kenny Omega, Brandon Cutler, whoever else you want to put into that sentence. There are a lot of people within WWE that do not like CM Punk. So do you think Triple H would go rogue this hard and not tell anybody? Seriously? That's ridiculous. Seth Rollins giving him the finger yesterday. Randy Orton just brushing him off. Rhea Ripley, I think, gave CM Punk the finger yesterday as well. I think so. Having Seth being held back by Michael Cole. This is old school. As long as there are fans around, as long that there is a camera or camera phone, Triple H is telling his roster to play it off, even if you're in the back. Even Drew McIntyre. Does anybody think, just take a step back for a minute, does anybody think that in preparation for War Games, that Drew McIntyre did not know the outcome of what was happening yesterday? He didn't get pinned. The person who I predicted would get pinned got pinned. That's Damian Priest. Everything was prepared for War Games. Drew McIntyre knew exactly what was happening in that match. So the idea that he stormed off, got into his car, he got into his fucking car 2 weeks ago with Jackie Redmond. You know, WWE in 2023, they have come to figure out and start to push it that if you could blur the lines between what is real and what isn't, that makes storyline that much more intriguing. To not know if Drew McIntyre just got fed up yesterday, professional guy, writing the big banners, going to Germany next year, going to Australia. You know, people out there, oh, Drew McIntyre's contract, you would think, is expiring in a month. It doesn't expire until next year. TKO Group Holdings just finished the deal with WWE a couple of months ago. People think this is like a board game. You roll the dice and there's billions of dollars and things don't get. Do you realize that there are people in the offices that still have not been terminated yet because they are still, condensing and trying to organize? So someone's contract that does not renew for 6 months, 8 months, 10 months, why does it have to be done now? Why? Because journalists want to talk about it? So when you see this stuff with Drew McIntyre, when you see this stuff with Seth Rollins wanting to get at CM Punk, this is not AEW. This is not and I don't want to piss off any AEW fans out there. This is a professionally run billion-dollar publicly traded company that is now owned by TKO Group Holdings and not majority owned by Vince McMahon. The last thing that Triple H is going to do is turn his fucking company upside down, turn his company split down the middle, that half the roster is just livid about CM Punk returning, and half the roster is cool with it. For real. Do you think so? No. Enjoy this. Enjoy this. And listen, I want to make this perfectly clear. There are a lot of you out there that are not CM Punk fans. I totally respect that. Absolutely respect that. CM Punk, as much as I defended him from the fight last year after the media scrum, I'm still blocked across all social media pages of his because I used to say a lot of shit. That's how I felt back in the day, but my feelings have changed over the years. I love the line that Triple H said last night, that you're not the same person that you were 10 years ago. And if you are, you did something wrong. That is a fascinating comment. The Triple H of 10 years ago is not the Triple H of now. The CM Punk from 10 years ago is not the CM Punk of now. And the idea that, the people think that the company is going to be turned upside down because of this incredible, unbelievable pop that the awesome Chicago fans gave last night when CM Punk's music hit, I was blown away by it. I absolutely did not expect that. And I thought it was fucking phenomenal. So for those out there that are not CM Punk fans, you got to forgive me. You got to forgive others out there because this is a major news story. And there are a lot of us out there that do like the fact that he is back. Make no mistake about it. CM Punk was the number one guy in AEW. When you go to merchandise, when you go to ratings, when you go to the buzz, CM Punk was that guy. CM Punk will not be that number one guy in the WWE. Yes, he will have weeks that his shirts will be number one on the stores, just like LA Knight and anyone else out there. CM Punk will be put in a high profile feud storyline. We expect tomorrow. Did you ever think this is real, everyone? WWE put out those renders today. Did you ever think that tomorrow on Raw, we're not only going to get Randy Orton back, but CM Punk as well? Personally, people are anticipating a big pipe bomb tomorrow night. I don't. And I'll tell you why. And by the way, my apologies for everyone out there who is a normal visitor of the sit down. You know what the sit down is on Sunday nights. You ask the questions. I answer them as best as I can. I share your comments. That's what this show is all about. But we obviously had to open up talking about this because we did not do a Survivor Series review yesterday. I was not in New York. I was in Connecticut. By the way, for a little cheap plug, if you are interested, Tuesday night, Kev and I are going to not only do a review, but we're going to do an aftermath because shit's going to be going down with Damian Priest and the Judgement Day. Shit's going to be going down with Bayley and Damage CTRL. Shit's going to be going down with Cody Rhodes and possibly Shinsuke Nakamura. Hey, if Shinsuke Nakamura was calling out CM Punk and that's why he came back yesterday, I'll run around my street naked with pasties on. And trust me, I won't do it. I'll pull a Ryback on everyone, but it's kind of a far stretch. If Nakamura is going to just name drop people that are not signed to WWE and they just magically appear, then you know what, Nakamura, fucking start name dropping other people that we want to see back in the WWE. I think that might be a little bit of a stretch, but tomorrow night we're getting this. And listen, I don't mean to be a little bit morbid. I don't mean to be a little bit disrespectful, but it's definitely something that needs to be mentioned. Tomorrow night, not only are we going to talk about Raw, not only are we going to talk about CM Punk, and I'll tell you why I don't think we're going to get a pipe bomb tomorrow. Not only are we going to get Randy Orton's return, not only are we going to get Natalya and her partner versus Chelsea Green. I feel bad because I always forget Tegan Knox's name. Tegan Knox and Natty versus Piper Niven and Chelsea Green. They're going to fight tomorrow. But tomorrow night also, we're going to know. Tomorrow night, Tammy Sytch. Tomorrow morning, Tammy Sytch gets sentenced for, killing someone while behind the wheel. She's going to be sentenced tomorrow morning in Florida, and my prediction is it's going to be 12 to 16 years in prison. So sorry that we had to, what I noticed? You really can't see it, but if you want to zoom in for comedy purposes, do they do that on purpose to embarrass the person? If you look in the back of her orange jumpsuit, if you look right above the letter E where my sentence logo is, there's something written in pen. And what is written in pen is XXL. And I wonder if they do that intentionally so everybody in the courtroom can see that she, like me, turned into a fatty. It literally has the size of the shirt shown for everybody to see. I think she's going to get 12 to 16 years. She's going to be sentenced tomorrow. What a disaster. What an absolute disaster. But we'll talk about that tomorrow. We don't need to talk about that today. But, just to close with this, with CM Punk, I don't believe there's going to be a pipe bomb tomorrow. I expect a crazy pull apart between him and Seth Rollins. I think when CM Punk's music's got to hit, crowd is going to go nuts. They're going to sing along with everybody else, and he's going to get to say a couple of words, and before he can say anything, Seth Rollins is going to come out there. The interesting thing about it is, does Seth Rollins, by default, technically turn heel? Wouldn't that be something? Because if you think about Seth Rollins right now, I am the visionary. Everybody sings his song. Would Seth Rollins look like an absolute goof tomorrow if he comes out and he's got the shade? Look, I know this is not Seth Rollins. This is the only sunglasses that I have at my desk right now. But if Seth Rollins came out like this, whoa, CM Punk, we cross paths. Come on. Really? I don't want that Seth Rollins tomorrow. I want Seth Rollins to be Matt Riddle from 2 years ago. What did you say? I'll fuck you up. What did you say? That's the Seth Rollins I want tomorrow. But I'm kind of concerned. How does WWE handle Seth Rollins going forward? CM Punk is not going to be a full-blown heel. You can't, because there is this sharp divide between hardcore AEW fans and hardcore WWE fans, and WWE's going to play right into it. Did you see the little remark that Triple H said yesterday about Jade Cargill? That fucking went viral yesterday. He was talking about Jade Cargill in the media scrum. Kevin and I are going to have a conversation about this on Tuesday. But in the conversation, he was talking about progress. And, to summarize it, Jade Cargill will be brought up, when she's ready. But basically, he said that she was limited by no fault of her own. And basically, if you want to use that in simple English, she was not trained as good as she should have been. And the funny thing is, people online are now running to, well, she was trained by Bryan Danielson. No, she wasn't. Bryan Danielson helped. She didn't know how to fucking swing a chair. You going to blame that on Bryan? Bryan Danielson helped. He is not a school, a trainer, a coach. She was not taught dotting the I's and crossing the T's. Fundamentals, Jade Cargill had. Her last match against Chris Statlander was decent. Was it on WWE levels? Maybe for a main event. And I don't mean main event is premium live event. I mean main event that is taped before Raw every Monday night. So that little remark yesterday blew up. AEW fans fucking livid. WWE fans, it's like rubbing salt on a wound. In the end, these are investments. CM Punk is an investment. And CM Punk knows he cannot get away with his shit in WWE like he did in AEW. Now, listen, I want to say this about CM Punk and AEW in closing. And I posted this earlier. And then I took it down because, I just feel it's a little bit too disrespectful. Tony Khan, okay? If you notice the way he dresses lately, he dresses like Antonio Inoki with the red scarf and the jacket and everything. In the back of my mind, for anybody that goes back to my days in the 2000s, even podcasting, I used to always make fun of people with words, put plays on words. And I look at Tony Khan and I look at CM Punk yesterday with Triple H, and I see this picture. And I can't help but to say to myself that Tony Khan wants to be Antonio Inoki so bad. He is not Antonio Inoki. He's Antonio Ijoki. He has just replaced the N with a J. He is a joke because he doesn't have the cojones to be a billion-dollar company to reel in the people that he is at the mercy of everybody who works behind the scenes in AEW. He is at their mercy because Antonio Ijoki, instead of pulling CM Punk aside, Jack Perry said, Jack, look, I know you're pissed. Instead of just telling the people at Collision, look, man, he is a veteran. He is the guy. You may not like him, but he is the one. You have a problem, you go to him. If you don't like it, come to me. He never did that. A year and a half ago, when that fight went down, do you remember it's under investigation? We knew 1 week later that was just a cop-out to avoid talking about it. Hey, Tony, what about this? Or what about, we can't talk about it, it's an investigation. Who investigated? Inspector Gadget? The police department? QTV? We'll fucking nobody investigated it. It's just, how do we resolve this through lawyers? CM Punk wants to reach out to the Young Bucks. And through the Young Bucks' attorney, they go back to CM Punk's attorney and says, they don't want to talk to you. That's where Tony Khan is Antonio Inoki. Instead of pulling the Young Bucks aside and say, listen, man, we all are under the AEW banner. You don't have to break bread with them. You don't have to hang out with them, but we got to work together. We got to build this company. We got to build it as we got Wembley coming up. Fucking Wembley, 80,000 people. Put the petty shit aside. If you have a problem, you come to me. No, all he did was, oh, everything is wonderful. Everything is great. I can't talk about it. I can't comment about it. Everything is spectacular. This is our greatest year ever. I can't talk about it. It's under investigation. I'm not inclined. I can't talk about it. That works for a little while, but it only goes so far. You look at the situation with Malachi Black. You look at the stuff with Andrade El Idolo. Just because, isn't it funny that Malachi Black and Andrade and Miro are like dream matches of Tony Khan's? And meanwhile, they were jerked off harder than anybody else. They were taken advantage even more, disrespected. Tony Khan has to either, I don't know what you do. Does this guy get a Johnny Ace who doesn't give a fuck? Look, I know there's a lot of you don't like Johnny Ace. I never really liked Johnny Ace either. The only thing, I could do a good impression of him. But you need someone there that don't give a fuck. And I don't know if Chris Jericho is that guy. But you need someone there that pulls these motherfuckers aside. You want to work for this company. You got to work together. Cut this baby shit out. You're not 15 years old. Stop with this sissy shit. Stop leaking stuff to the media. You're fucking hurting my company. He doesn't do any of that. So when you see last night this, that simple little picture is basically saying, you see, this is where the big boys play. I don't know how you fix that with AEW. But you are a tragic accident or a major lawsuit or another petty bullshit fight that is blown out of proportion away from more of this negative shit. I posted on my Twitter today. I don't have the picture here right now, but I posted on my Twitter today something that somebody sent me over the weekend. It's Adam Copeland, Edge, at an AEW event, and there's only 2 rows of fans. The entire back, it looks worse than the old TNA events when he used to go to baseball stadiums. And I did a play on words, you think you know him, and I changed it to you think you no-showed him. And it's horrendous. It's sad. There's no reason why people are turning away like they are. So the CM Punk stuff yesterday, as an AEW fan, I am pissed the fuck off that this shit couldn't have been worked out. Because Collision, if you remember my preview show before the first ever Collision aired, this was supposed to be, a totally different product. And I said, will it end up being Saturday Night Dynamite, or will it be Rampage, 2 hours of Rampage? And I think it's pretty much a combination of both. There's no identity. So I am ecstatic that CM Punk is back on my television because the guy could still work. The guy obviously is a master on the mic. I could only imagine the confrontation he's going to have with Seth Rollins. I think Becky Lynch is going to get involved in some way. By the way, does anybody think yesterday when Kairi Sane skipped down the ring, some people think that was like a little bit of showing love to AJ Lee. Could we possibly get AJ back in the WWE? I think that is very possible. I think that it's absolutely possible. One thing I think we could all agree on is I think we could all accept now that Vince McMahon is still respected by Triple H, and he name dropped Vince yesterday, but this is not Vince McMahon's company anymore. And Triple H mended fences with Bret Hart. He mended fences with Bruno Sammartino. He was instrumental in mending fences with the Ultimate Warrior. You know, Triple H was involved in a lot of ways. And if you think about back then, Bret Hart, Triple H was near the top of the list that he wanted to punch the F out back in 1997. Ultimate Warrior was not a fan of Triple H in the 90s. So you think about it, this guy just has a way of just mending fences. And like WWE wrote on their Twitter yesterday, never say never. And we have CM Punk. You know, somebody wrote today, is this the best WWE has been since the Attitude Era? Take note of the people's ages that write stuff like that, because I think they would have loved the WWE in the mid-2000s, 2005, 6, around that time. I know we had crappy WWE's version of ECW, but remember, CM Punk came to the WWE through their version of ECW. And you think about Kurt Angle, and you think about even some legends in WCW, you know, Hogan versus Rock was 2003, around that time. But you look at that year from 03 to 05, 06, maybe 06, that was an insanely awesome time. That was kind of like a fantasy roster. Like we got WCW, we got WWE, we got Stars of Tomorrow, we got ECW, just rolled up into one. But it is a fun time to be a wrestling fan. And make no mistake about it, AEW is not going anywhere. AEW is not going to go out of business. AEW just signed Will Ospreay. He'll probably main event and win the championship at All In next year. You know, they have some tremendous stars. What they just got to do is just show everybody why they're good and not why WWE is bad. Because that argument is starting to really show how ridiculous it was. A couple of years ago, when they said that WWE ran a sloppy shop, you look back on it, COVID was so unpredictable and COVID was so unexpected. And I think anybody calling anybody a sloppy shop because of COVID is kind of like a low blow in the nuts. But now you can't use that anymore. You know, you got Dante Martin back. You got Bryan Danielson coming back next month. You got a few other people coming back from injuries. You know, let's just hope that they could stay injury-free. They don't need to fucking do 7-star matches and fucking crazy-ass moves. You know, you got to pull back a little bit. And I think the fans got to realize that also, that what would you rather have? Would you rather have that instant gratification, like my mind has been fucking blown tonight by this unbelievable match, but then that person might be on the shelf for 6 months? Or would you rather have a little bit more of a watered down version of a few people, but they get to perform for you for years? Look at Randy Orton. You look at CM Punk, look at some others. The fact that they're still, Randy Orton, just like R-Truth, they don't age. I can't picture Randy Orton at 65 years old with wrinkles on his face and his tits sagging. Like, you almost feel like Randy Orton is always going to look like this. R-Truth as well. But before we get into questions, because that's what the sit down is all about, my overall thoughts, and like I said, Kevin and I are going to do a full-blown review on Tuesday, less than 48 hours from now. I enjoyed Survivor Series yesterday. Outside of CM Punk coming back, every prediction I made happened. Said Bayley would get pinned, Damian Priest would get pinned. Bayley is on her way out with Damage CTRL. And I got news for you. If you watched closely yesterday, Bayley's turning babyface. Bayley did everything possible to prevent her partners from being pinned. Somebody produced that yesterday. If you watch that match back, every single person in Damage CTRL was this close of being pinned, and Bayley broke it up. When Bayley was the one victimized at the end, her partners were not there for her. And that was intentionally done that way. Bayley, I think, is turning back babyface. Now, could you imagine if Mercedes Moné signs back to the WWE next year? You get that 4 horsewomen Yesterday, they mentioned the four horsewomen. They didn't mention Sasha Banks or Mercedes by name, but they brought up the four horsewomen. I mean, when was the last time that you heard that reference really talked about? They name dropped Chris Jericho yesterday because when Miz fought Gunther, Michael Cole said that Miz can tie Chris Jericho as a 9-time Intercontinental Champion. They brought up Sting because Sting debuted, I believe, at Survivor Series. So to them now, it's just because they're working for the competitor doesn't mean because we acknowledge them that, oh, I'm not watching WWE anymore. Oh, God, I had no idea Sting was in AEW. Let me go watch AEW instead. Then they're not ashamed. And that is a cool thing as well to hear. But I got news for you. This is not Vince McMahon's run WWE anymore. And let's think about the relationship that Mercedes Moné had with Triple H. A lot of her social media posts about Vince McMahon, I always thought was sarcasm. It almost felt like sugar daddy. Any of you ever pay close attention to Sasha Banks's tweets right up to the point that she was gone from WWE? Like she would remember the time she thanked Vince McMahon and she showed a picture of a kid crying and then they put a whole bunch of money in front of the kid and the kid went from, I always felt that she was pretty, listen, am I saying that Mercedes Moné and Vince McMahon ever did anything physical? No, I'm not saying that. But I always felt that, she had this sarcastic, expressions towards Vince. But now with Triple H, really, given that trust from TKO, that's one thing that came out from yesterday's media scrum. That's one thing that no reporter is going to change your mind. That when it comes to the big decisions, TKO Group Holdings have given Nick Khan and Triple H that power that they trust him. And I got news for you. Like Triple H said yesterday, and he even cursed when he said it. He said, I get that TKO, when they were watching the close of Survivor Series, they probably were like, holy shit. That pop was nuts. So make no mistake about it. There is no Juan, the janitor, that is overhearing Triple H and Nick Khan talking business, and he leaks it out to ProWrestlingSchmuck.com. They are keeping shit tight-lipped. And the fact that people do not know if Seth Rollins and CM Punk is a work or a shoot, or Drew McIntyre walking out as a work or a shoot. Let me give everybody a little insight, little knowledge. If you ever want to be a wrestling news reporter, there is one thing that you always have to do. And as long as you do this, you will be a valid, credible, in people's eyes, you will succeed at it. You have to talk on both sides of your mouth. You're never supposed to give a yes or no answer. You're always supposed to leave room. Dave Meltzer, I subscribed to his newsletter for well over a decade. I like Dave more than I criticize him. But if you read even 30 years ago from The Observer, he'll always talk on both sides of his mouth. He talked about CM Punk recently. He said, as of now, the deal is dead. For now, the deal is dead. Instead of just saying, there is no interest, he'll always say, for now, at the present, for the time being. Because when it does happen, I never said WWE would never take him back. That is the trick of being a journalist. You never say yes. You never say no. And if you do, you better make sure that you talk on both sides of your mouth. Right now, there is legit dissension between Seth Rollins and CM Punk, but because of their professionalism, that they will put their their personal feelings aside for the betterment of WrestleMania and this and that. You got to talk on both sides of your mouth. If you do that, you will excel at being a wrestling news reporter. Trust me. I did that from the 90s to the mid 2000s. I had Mike the Informer. I had Mr. Mystery that worked at TNA. I had people behind the scenes, friends that worked in those companies, and they would give me a little dirt here and there. Oh, did you hear this? Oh, I got this for you. Check this out. But after a while, you have to deal with the big boys, and you can't keep up with it. But all right. What else did I want to bring up? I think we could start getting into questions because that's what the sit down is all about. On Sundays when we do the sit down, you know what? Couple other things, because I see a few people reminded me. My overall thoughts about Survivor Series. On a scale of 1 to 10, because of Randy Orton's return, because of the CM Punk surprise, because both War Games matches were excellent and they told great stories, I give Survivor Series War Games yesterday an 8 out of 10. The only reason why I don't give it higher is because Rhea Ripley versus Zoe Stark, Zoe put up the good fight. But not even 10 seconds in that match, exactly what we expected to happen 2 weeks ago happened. She was not the fan favorite. The crowd was clearly behind Rhea Ripley, chanting, "Mommy, mommy, mommy." When Zoe would hit a shot, boo. Rhea Ripley would hit a shot, yay, boo, yay. It was a decent match, but honestly, not only was it too predictable, but I don't agree with Zoe Stark being in that spot. I personally think Nia Jax would have been a much better opponent. I guess they just want to put someone that's a baby face. I wouldn't have even put Raquel Rodriguez yesterday. I think Nia Jax or Shayna Baszler would have been 10 times better. I think the crowd would have popped for Shayna Baszler out of the respect of the work she puts in. I know she's not everybody's fan, but the Zoe Stark match I could care less about. Gunther versus The Miz. Gunther was 5,000 to 1 odds, and that was legit. There was no chance of Miz winning this, but let me tell you something, man. When he fucking hit that skull-crushing finale, when he got threw Gunther into that exposed turnbuckle, even though it looked kind of weak with the shoulder, but then when he rolled him back, for a split second, you're like, you thought, just for a split, it was almost like, was it Santino Marella when we thought he was going to win the Elimination Chamber? Was it him? Does anybody remember if it was Santino? There was one Elimination Chamber that I remember we covered on the early days of podcasting. Yes, people are saying it is. If some of you out there never saw that Elimination Chamber match that Santino Marella was in, go watch that match. You can watch it on 1.5 times the speed. You will get to the point that you'll actually think for a few moments that Santino Marella was going to win this. They just did it perfectly. Thank God he didn't win it. I mean, honestly, he had no business winning it, but they did an amazing job with Santino Marella yesterday. With the Elimination Chamber. And they did a great job with Miz yesterday. I'm happy that the crowd is behind Miz. It's a little bizarre. I've always been a fan of Miz, but, like Alberto Del Rio, you don't turn Alberto Del Rio babyface. You remember when they did that? And it just didn't fit. No. Miz, he was born to be a heel. You know what I mean? Like the doctors, Mrs. Mizani, you got a beautiful baby boy. Oh, we're going to name him Mike. And he just looked up and said, "Fuck you, doctor. Give me some of that nipple milk." Miz is born to be a heel. But you know what? After 20 years, getting acknowledgement from the fans that, yeah, you worked a very safe style, but that's why that motherfucker is still in that ring. Not everybody, listen, if everybody wrestled the Miz's style, I probably would not be watching wrestling anymore. But I like that they're giving Miz a little bit of some moments to have the fans just show a little bit of appreciation. And he could, for once, soak it in. You know what I mean? Like Randy Orton, like right now, this is an awesome time. He's back. I don't know if he's going to be a baby face for long. You kind of feel like he's going to RKO someone that we don't want him to RKO, and there you go. But Miz, accept this for now. Santos Escobar versus Dragon Lee. If you remember on Monday, when I announced the predictions contest for Patreon and the channel members on YouTube, I said we got to wait until Friday night because they might be changing something. We didn't know what it was. I'm not going to sit here and say I knew they would change it to Dragon Lee. I had no idea that it was going to be that, but somebody had said to me that they're thinking about changing something. Whatever it was, it was. They ended up taking Carlito out of the match and they put Dragon Lee instead. Now, I think this is a bigger story than you think. I think there's a bigger story going on right now with Carlito. Because I can't help but to think when Carlito came back, you remember he was supposed to be in a match and then the Street Profits laid him out and then he didn't have a match for like 2 or 3 weeks and we were like, wait, he wasn't sent to the hospital. Like, why couldn't he compete the following week? Remember they were going to have, I think, Santos Escobar versus Bobby Lashley. And Carlito was going to be like in the corner or he was going to be in Ray's corner, something like that. We were like, why isn't Carlito wrestling? This is the second time since Carlito is back that they've done an injury angle where his match has to be canceled. I think there's something more going on with Carlito. And I don't know what it is, but the thing is Carlito is good still. He can still go. But why, like, let me put it this way. His days of putting on insanely mind-blowing matches, I don't even know if they've ever existed. Carlito is a great performer. But Carlito doesn't give us like these memorable matches like, holy shit, did you hear what Carlito did last night? We never ever talk about stuff like that. If anything, we talked about more when he would spit apples in people's faces. So Carlito holding him off from matches, when it does come time that he wrestles, it's like, okay, he wrestles like a generic kind of style, but it's Carlito. You know what I mean? Why take him out of that match? Well, number one, I think the reason why they did is because I think WWE was a little concerned that the match was going to suck. Plus, if you watch SmackDown on Friday, I don't know if you saw it because it was on FS1, but I watched it even though I was away. And when Carlito started brawling with Santos Escobar in the rampway, there was no reaction. The only time that a reaction came is when Santos came from the crowd and dove off of that barricade onto Carlito. Up until that crowd was dead. And I'm happy that Dragon Lee got that spot yesterday. Dragon Lee won those fans over. Dragon Lee did a great fucking job yesterday. In defeat, Dragon Lee won. I enjoyed that match very, very much. Women's War Games match, excellent. Little concern for Shotzi early on. Thought that she got her bell rung a little bit. But the story was exactly what we expected it to be. Bayley gets pinned, and now she's going to have to answer the Judgment Day. We got to just see how not Judgment Day, Damage CTRL. Now we got to see how Bayley responds back. You know, because everybody is going to give the cold shoulder to Bayley. And Bayley's going to realize she failed. You know, they did that little goofy segment last night after Survivor Series was over where she was eating Ruffles in the back, some potato chips. But, you know, when SmackDown comes, she failed. But I want to see if they're going to go deeper where Bayley says, I saved you. I saved you. I saved you. I saved you. Did you save me? Nobody came to mind. And I think Bayley's days in Damage CTRL are numbered. And I think the name will change as well. I don't think the name Damage CTRL will stick around. Judgment Day has to remain. The name sticks. The merchandise sells well. The song, whether we're kind of sick and tired of hearing it, it's still good. You know, it flows. Everything about it, the visuals, the colors. Like Damage CTRL, you know, there's not like a style to it. You know what I mean? We got the rage. We got the cage. We at the rage. We got the cage. We got the rage. We got, like, outside of that, there's really nothing. So I think we're going to get like a Japanese Yakuza with the women. And I think Judgment Day will continue. But I think Damian Priest, remember what we said last Monday with predictions? Damian Priest was given the ball to be the leader of the team at War Games. And not only did they lose, he's the one that lost. He failed. So now he's more concerned about cashing in the briefcase. His master plan was to cash in the briefcase yesterday instead of the betterment of winning War Games. And that's where the beginning of the end of Damian Priest and Judgment Day. And you know, because of Damian Priest's work, how good he was with Bad Bunny, how hard he works in the ring. Even when he had that championship match with Seth Rollins, the fans showed a little bit of respect towards that guy. Finn Balor has been spectacular as a heel. Finn Balor is killing as a heel right now. And with JD McDonough side by side with him, you do not change Finn Balor. We don't need to go like this, as a baby face. Damian Priest is the one. The only thing is, I think Damian Priest down the line could very well end up having a match with Gunther. Not this minute. I think Ludwig Kaiser is going to get a shot at Gunther in the very near future. That's what they're kind of forcing onto us. But Damian Priest is the one on his way out of the Judgment Day. And then down the line, Finn Balor, who'll be the veteran presence. Rhea Ripley is extremely young. I don't know exactly how old Rhea Ripley is, but I would say Rhea Ripley's 20, 24, 23, 25? Outside of Finn Balor and Damian Priest, Jada McDonough's got a little bit of age to him, but Dominic Mysterio is still young. 27. Thank you, Austin. So, I think Damian Priest is the next to go. And then down the line, Finn Balor will be out of there as well. And you'll get a reincarnation in Judgment Day as it goes along. Personally, I don't think so. I think once Damian Priest is out of there, Judgment Day will still be. Because remember, you still got 4 people. Jada McDonough, Dominic Mysterio, Finn Balor, and Rhea Ripley. But Damian Priest will obviously... and remember what I said before, if they have to turn Seth Rollins heel, which would be kind of bizarre because he's so over with singing his song, I could see Damian Priest possibly going after Seth Rollins as well. But, now with CM Punk back, you say to yourself, is CM Punk going to go for the World Heavyweight Championship? Would WWE dare put the World Heavyweight Championship on CM Punk? I don't know if they would do that before WrestleMania, but I think we kind of have an idea now what night one's main events could be. Charlotte Flair and Jade Cargill, which is a match we talked about before, and Seth Rollins versus CM Punk. But I'll say this before we open up the floor for questions for the rest of the show. How cool is it to be CM Punk? Despite everything that happened this year, that guy got to perform in front of the biggest wrestling audience at Wembley. And then a few months later, shows up in WWE. No 90-day no-compete clause, no dragged into lawsuits, whether a plaintiff or the defendant. The guy got to perform at Wembley. Some people feel his match with Samoa Joe was one of the best of the night. He got to wrestle at Wembley and work WWE all within almost in the same season. Pretty wild when you think about it. All right. Now, you know what? Some of you in the chat are saying that they should play on some AEW a little bit. Even with the fear stuff with Tony Khan, listen, I know we can joke about Tony Khan being very, very fragile. Like, you kind of feel like if he was like doing paperwork and you walked up behind him and you went, boo! I think he would fucking jump out of his seat. I think he would urinate on the floor. But, just because someone is kind of weak like that doesn't make them a bad person. Honestly, some people I know that work in AEW have said to me that Tony Khan, little, funny at times, and I mean funny, not in like comedy, but when you like keep like meat in the refrigerator for like an extra day or two, or maybe even if you have Thanksgiving turkey in the refrigerator right now, you might open the door and go, it smells a little funny, like that kind of funny. But they say overall he's a nice guy. Like he's just nice guy. I don't want to criticize the guy that much. It's just he's got to get a backbone. He's got to get a fucking backbone. He's got to reel in. But unfortunately, he puts so many people with politics. If they ever do the rise and fall of AEW 10, 20 years from now, the P word will be all over that documentary, and that's politics. That the people behind the scenes, he's at the mercy of them. You cannot go on monster.com and fill some of the roles of some of the people over there. All right. So we've done 55 minutes. We had a little bit of a conversation. So once again, just a quick reminder. Now, Monday, obviously we'll cover Raw. Randy Orton will appear. CM Punk will appear. We'll see what prison sentence Tammy Sytch gets. Then on Tuesday, Kevin and I are doing a double show. We're going to be doing a Survivor Series review and aftermath. We're going to talk a lot of what we think is going to happen to close out 2023 and into the Royal Rumble. This is not going to be just a 5-match review and done. A lot of our conversation is going to be well beyond Survivor Series. That's why we're doing it on Tuesday. Tomorrow's Raw is going to also fill in some blanks. So we could have done one tonight, but the fact that tomorrow we'll get some updates, with some guys, that'll be a nice conversation having to Tuesday. Instead of doing it now and say, gee, I wonder what CM Punk is going to say on Raw. On Tuesday, we could actually talk about it. And then Tuesday, after Survivor Series, we got the Q&A. You have until midnight tonight to go to the community section on YouTube if you want to post a question for us to answer. We got a crazy amount already, so this is the last opportunity. Kevin and I will be recording it late Tuesday night, and then that'll be available for everybody on DonTony.com and all the audio platforms later on in the week. So for those that might be new, fun Sunday nights here. What is the sit down? Normally, when we don't get Randy Orton returns and CM Punk surprises and everything, sit down is the lazy show. I show up with nothing. Basically, everybody who is live and in the chat room basically asks whatever questions and topics they want me to cover tonight. It could be wrestling, non-wrestling, whatever is on your mind. All I ask is that if you have a question, just write the word question before it so I could spot it quicker. If you have a comment you want me to just share with everyone, you thought Survivor Series sucked. I don't know why you would say that, but if you do, I just write comment before it. Super chats, never required, but they do help pay the bills. They will always get a little bit of VIP treatment. And I see that 3 of them came in. So if you allow me, let me answer these 3 questions, and then we'll go straight over to the chat room, and we will go until we don't have to. Ronnie C., thank you for the 10 spot, Ronnie. Since I'm going to get a lot of Punk questions, he has one about War Games. Since I called Priest and Bayley both eating the losses of War Games, what happens next for both? Well, first of all, I am pretty convinced that members of the Judgment Day, I don't think Jade and McDonough will say much of anything, but members of the Judgment Day are going to confront Damian Priest for failing, that he wanted to be the leader of the Judgment Day, and not only did they lose, he was the one that gave them the loss. And then there'll be a little bit of teasing. Remember, Finn Balor and Damian Priest are still undisputed WWE Tag Team Champions. They have to lose those championships before anything else. We don't want something stupid where Damian Priest walks off on Finn Balor or vice versa. We don't need a Ridge Holland to Butch situation with titles involved. They are going to be losing those championships very soon. Will they lose them to Cody Rhodes and Jey Uso? Probably not, because they got the title rematch not too long ago and they lost that. But somebody is going to be defeating Finn Balor and Damian Priest much sooner than later. And once those titles are no longer on Damian Priest and Finn Balor, that is pretty much when the full-blown split happens with Damian Priest. Remember, WWE dropped the storyline. I don't know if you realize it. They'll still keep it around, but they've kind of dropped it. The alliance with the Bloodline and the Judgment Day. Why wasn't Jimmy Uso there yesterday? kind of sucks that LA Knight, they couldn't find. Wasn't that stupid? We had an awesome Slim Jim commercial with LA Knight with a little Macho Man Randy Savage cameo involved. And then right after that commercial, we see the Slim Jim car. And I have nothing against the New Day, but how do you show LA Knight as a spokesman for Slim Jim and then you have beep, 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 beep. LA Knight, you don't have room for LA Knight at Survivor Series? Listen, we talked about that last Monday. That's a little bit ridiculous when you think about it. But Damian Priest, he'll be out of Judgment Day soon. I think we may see Damian Priest versus Finn Balor at WrestleMania. I think that is a possible match. Bayley, I think Bayley, that's a little bit easier. You'll have the Japanese women talking about her, and they'll be laughing, and Bayley will be like, what? And Dakota Kai's Dakota Kai's going to be put in a situation where she's not going to know like how to, which side she's going to take. Dakota Kai has got to stay, in my opinion, with Io Sky, Kairi Sane, and Asuka, because she's the mouthpiece. If one of them was shown on TV speaking fluent English, Dakota Kai would not be necessary. Dakota Kai is not taking a beating right now because Dakota Kai still is on the road to recovery. They're not going to put her in any situation where she could get injured. By the way, I loved Io Sky's spot with the garbage pail yesterday. I know, kind of goofy, everybody standing there waiting to take it, but that's still ballsy, man. Imagine being that high. Go on your roof, and then put a garbage pail over it, and then literally like stand up, and let's see what happens. Don't do that. But that's ballsy to do, because you don't see. You could literally, because of sweat, slip just a little bit and land on the fucking ropes. And it's not going to look like a bad cartoon where the garbage pail is going to land on the ropes and go boing, like a rubber band. Scary shit, man. That's a spot where I'd be like, that was cool. Don't do it again. Thank you, Ronnie. Mikey Ravello with a 10 spot. Thank you, Mikey. With Randy Orton back, what's my thoughts that Randy Orton did not make it in Dave Meltzer's Hall of Fame, but Kenny Omega is in since 2020? Look, there was at one point where I could have voted for the Wrestling Observer newsletter Hall of Fame stuff. It's a popularity contest. My shows, let's be honest, my shows are more WWE geared because a majority of people who tune in are more into WWE than they are with AEW. When it comes to Dave Meltzer, his audience is more, Japanese market, AEW, indies, more about the 5-star match, the high-flying stuff. And I'm not criticizing any of that. It's just that's his audience. So his audience is going to vote accordingly. I think, in my honest opinion, Kenny Omega being in there for almost 4 years now is kind of ridiculous. If Kenny Omega was 10 years older right now, then I could see it. But remember this too. Triple H has been in Meltzer's Hall of Fame. It's got to be 15 years already. I know he's retired, but, 15 years ago, maybe even more than that, Triple H was in. So, there's going to be some questionable names. Randy Orton, he's had a Hall of Fame career. And if you say to me who has had a better career between Kenny Omega and Randy Orton, I would lean towards Randy Orton. And I think that's more of just the longevity of the career, the magnitude of the matches, and I'm in the United States, so I don't weigh Japanese wrestling or what takes place in Japan. So I'm really not the right person to ask over here. But if you said to me, you could only put in Randy Orton or Kenny Omega into a Hall of Fame, who would you put in first? I would say Randy Orton. But I would also put Kenny Omega in down the line. All right. Moist Ham. Thank you, Mr. Moist, for the 5 spot. Is Christian's dead relatives gimmick a more disgusting promotional tactic or gimmick of the year? Moist Ham. Christian going after Nick Wayne's mom, you know, like talking about Nick Wayne's dead father. Understand, the family is fine with this being used in entertainment purposes. You know, I don't know how many of you listen. I don't know how many of you were around when Eddie Guerrero passed away. I don't know how many of you were wrestling fans when Eddie Guerrero passed away. But one thing, if you look at it now, it comes off as sick and twisted, but at the time it wasn't. When Eddie Guerrero was still being used in storylines after he passed, if anybody remembers Ray, JBL, and his cars and other things, people now that go back and watch those storylines are like, wow, that is disgusting. It's sick. It's twisted. How could you do that after he was dead? But Eddie told his family and friends, if you could keep my name alive after I'm gone, do it. Honest, they're wrestlers. If you want to use their name in a storyline or go further, in the end, Rey Mysterio prevailed. This was not like something that Eddie Guerrero was totally against. Now, did Eddie Guerrero think he was going to pass at 38 years old? No. But the thing is that this is not something that Eddie Guerrero would have been upset at. You know, this was used, and JBL was a monster heel at that time. And that's why JBL beloved Eddie Guerrero. You look at it now, and it comes off as disgusting, but at the time, you know, and that's why I kind of am happy that I'm uploading, you know, old episodes again, because Kevin and I covered this in real time. We covered a lot of these storylines as they went down, and you'll hear our reactions as they went down. It was not morbid and crazy. So Christian doing this now, Christian is a tremendous fucking heel. Christian Cage is awesome as a heel. Also realize Christian Cage is not known to be a scumbag. Christian Cage is not known to be a prick. Christian Cage, outside of wrestling, is not known to be an asshole. Christian Cage does not jump the line unless the people involved know he's going to jump the line. So, no, I don't find it disgusting at all. It's in poor taste at times, but, you know, Christian, if you're going to work with Christian and have the privilege, listen, I have family members that have passed on that I beloved, that could still bring me to tears if it's the right day. If I was in wrestling and I got to work something with Christian Cage, and part of the catch was that Christian would have to bring up my dead grandmother or my dead dog or this and that, I'd be like, fuck, go ahead, man. Go ahead. As long as it works. As long as it works. I'll give you an example where it didn't work. I'll give you an example where it was disgusting, tasteless, stupid, embarrassing, should never have been done. Jeff Jarrett's dead wife. And I know that sounds awful the way I said it, but that's how they used it in the storyline. Jeff Jarrett's dead wife. When Jeff Jarrett's wife passed away, when he was in TNA, they used that in a fucking storyline. And we were like, this is just awful. She wasn't a professional wrestler. It's not like and I can't picture, Jeff, I think it's time. Don't forget about me. If you want to use me in a storyline, you can. You know, that just came off awkward, dumb, ridiculous, unnecessary. Christian Cage is doing a great job. I cannot criticize Christian. Thank you, Mr. Moist. Yankee Frankie. What's up, Yankee? Thank you for the 5-spot, Yankee. Mr. Frankie says, with CM Punk being back in the WWE, do I see FTR trying to get out of their contracts to go back to the WWE to be with CM Punk since they're good friends? No, I don't. There are some, look at Charlotte Flair and Andrade. You know, like they work for different promotions, but they still are together every week, couple of days out of the week, having quality time as husband and wife. Friends can work in different companies. I got news for you. Yes, CM Punk and FTR are close. But also understand, there are wrestlers in the WWE that are like this with some wrestlers in AEW. They just keep their friendships a little bit more on the low. FTR, the reason why they work for AEW, not just because they're paid well, but they don't have to work the crazy rigors of a WWE schedule. Yeah, AEW tours overseas once in a while, but their schedule, they're not even doing house shows pretty much anymore if you really think about it. FTR's schedule is a lot lighter. They get to stay home with their families a lot more. Mental health is a very important aspect. That's why I think Adam Cole went to AEW originally. I think for some wrestlers, I've brought this up before. Some wrestlers, if they could go home 5 days a week, if they could game, if they can do a couple little outside things here and there, if they want to, and it doesn't interfere with AEW's schedule, why do you think Tony Khan doesn't trademark many things? You hear wrestlers trademarking stuff. You hear FTR trademarking things. You hear Ricky Starks trademarking things. You don't hear AEW trademarking many things with wrestlers, and that's because they're not, deep about intellectual property. They're not deep about, owning the rights to this name or owning this. They give one of the attractive reasons why people go to AEW is the freedom, is that if I do, get noticed, and I do succeed in AEW, and then I get the opportunity to make millions of WWE, I don't have to lose my identity. I may not even have to lose my music in some cases. So there are different reasons why people sign with AEW. Limited schedule, having more time with family, just overall, physically and mentally, not having to put in the rigors of a WWE schedule. That's one of the reasons why FTR went. FTR knows, even after a year and a half ago, they re-signed. They know what is going on in AEW. They know who signs their checks. They know who works behind the scenes. They know who plays politics. They know who's going to fuck with their pushes here and there. And they're still fine with that. That doesn't make them weak. But they're not going to give all that up just so they can hang with their friend. Because if WWE really wanted to, what happens if FTR is on Raw and CM Punk's on SmackDown? Thank you, Yankee Frankie. Shout out to Maggie. Thank you for the kind words about Kevin and I. Looking forward to Tuesday. He's feeling better. He got hit with a crazy flu strain, and he's feeling better, so we should be good to go Tuesday. Juan Jackson. Shout out to you, Juan. Do I think Paul Heyman will reunite with CM Punk? That is a good one. I think we will see a segment involving the two. I think we will see a backstage segment. I would love to see CM Punk feud with Roman Reigns. I could only imagine CM Punk cutting promos on Roman Reigns right now in his schedule and this. It would be really interesting. No, I don't think Paul Heyman would manage CM Punk right now. Paul Heyman to Roman Reigns is what Paul Heyman was to Brock Lesnar. Like, no one else. When Paul Heyman, had Cesaro and had CM Punk, and had a few, that was different. But no. Paul Heyman is a one-person, advocate right now. And as long as Roman Reigns is still the guy, Paul Heyman will be by his side. So I say no. Tristan Sloan. DT, who do I think CM Punk's first rivalry will be with the WWE? Well, Seth Rollins obviously is going to interrupt the celebration tomorrow. His first feud, it's going to be interesting because how do you go from the end of November to WrestleMania? I don't think CM Punk is winning the Royal Rumble. I think that's still Cody Rhodes' match to win. I don't see CM Punk winning an Elimination Chamber match in Australia, but how do you go from now to WrestleMania with Seth Rollins? I don't know if you do. Could they do Rollins versus Punk at the Royal Rumble? They could very well do that. I don't know if I like that idea, but I think what's going to happen is somebody is going to come to the defense of Seth Rollins unless they turn Seth Rollins more of a heel. Tomorrow is going to answer that question. That's why, like I said, Kevin and I are doing it Tuesday instead of tonight, because tomorrow we should have some clarity where it goes from here. It's really going to depend on what Seth Rollins does. Seth Rollins is absolutely going to have an interaction with CM Punk tomorrow. I think it's going to be a pull apart. I think the commentary, I think we're going to get holy shit chants. I think you're going to see think Brock Lesnar, Big Show? Was it Brock Lesnar? No, Brock Lesnar, Samoa Joe. Remember that pull apart between Brock and Samoa Joe one time on TV? I think it might have been a SmackDown, and the fans were going, holy shit. That pull apart was insane. They're going to do a crazy pull apart tomorrow. The question now is, if Seth Rollins goes heel, then he might end up having a match with Finn Balor. He could end up having a match with Damian Priest. He could lay out Dominic Mysterio. There's a few. He could end up doing, if you said to me right now, DT, you could have CM Punk feud with anybody on Raw, even if he lost, who would it be? I would love to see him challenge Gunther. Even though I would want Gunther to keep his championship, I think it would be pretty interesting to see Gunther chop the shit out of those fucking nipples that CM Punk had. Just chop him right in those fucking nips. And CM Punk will sell it like $1 trillion. I think Gunther versus CM Punk would be an intriguing match that nobody really would think about all that much. But I would freaking love to see that. Seriously. I would like to see him beat up Dom. I'd be fine with him beating up Dom. You know what? Wouldn't be surprised if we get Giovanni Vinci versus CM Punk. That could end up being one of the first matches. Don't forget, I predicted Dante Chen to be Lexis King's first match. We could end up with Giovanni Vinci taking on CM Punk. We'll see. Okay, let's continue in the chat. We're at 87 minutes. No, we're at 77 minutes. We still got time. No rush. Isaiah. What's up, Isaiah? With the current rosters and potential returns and NXT superstars going to the main rosters, along with superstars who may join the new era of the WWE, will it be called the Renaissance? The Renaissance era? No. Number one, too many people would misspell it. And you spelled it right, but too many people would misspell it. You know why WWE would not call it the Renaissance era? And I don't think it would catch on? Because we had COVID. And we got out of COVID about 2 years ago. WWE's been kind of fire for the last year and a half. The bloodline kind of hit a brick wall, let's be honest. But, when Sammy was getting Uzi and other things were going on, WWE was doing pretty damn good. Renaissance makes you feel like they were at a huge low. Like I would have, if you were going to use that term, I would have used it in 2021 or 2022. I don't think you would use it because then that means the period that preceded it was, not very spectacular. I don't think WWE would acknowledge that, and I don't think fans would really bring that up. They've been hitting record revenue for a year and a half. Everywhere you turn, Raw or SmackDown, highest grossing event ever. Yesterday, Survivor Series, highest this, SmackDown, highest event ever grossed in Chicago for WWE. Like, you hear things like that, and you're like, how? Are they charging $178 a ticket? How are they getting this kind of revenue? So No, I don't think they would use that, but it's not a bad term. I totally get why you're saying that. I think with NXT, I think New Generation is good, but New Generation was already used in the 90s. So we would have to come up with, I like Next Generation, but you spell next NXT. I've used that. I put Lexus King and Braun Breaker on a thumbnail not too long ago, and I said Next Generation, spelling it NXT. I think 2 years from now, I think you're going to see a lot of people from NXT on that main roster. And who knows? Maybe that'll be used in some way. In mutual respect era. Kevin Milwaukee with a comment. JD McDonough looks like a slightly smaller Chris Benoit with his facials. Yeah, he does. He does. He does remind me of Chris Benoit. He in some ways. JD McDonough, man, I've said it for a while now. He is a bumping machine. That guy gets his ass kicked, and fans love seeing him get his ass kicked. When he took that RKO yesterday, you saw the referee immediately check on him. That is just, Randy caught him in the last second, but still, when you bounce off that mat, if Randy's, even if his, the bone of his thumb is the wrong way, that could nail him in the throat. You're catching him like that. And the funny thing is, you got to ask yourself, did they practice that? Like, if I'm JD McDonough, would I, hey, you want to practice the move? Do I have to? You only get one shot. You only get one chance. JD McDonough is a bumping machine. I have some appreciation for JD McDonough. But I fucking love the Funko Pop reference because you know what he looks like? He looks like an Irish Elix Skipper. Remember Elix Skipper who had that giant neck? It looked like a Pez dispenser that you just wanted to lift it back and pull the candy out. Elix Skipper, his head used to be too big and his neck was extra long. He kind of reminds me of the white Elix Skipper. Prime time, baby. I used to love his entrance theme in TNA. Prime time. No, I can't do it right now. I'll embarrass myself. Up in here. No. Rocky Red, with CM Punk now officially back, Cody, Jade Cargill, and the BPJ, to a much lesser extent, in the WWE, could this heavily sway and influence other AE stars to jump? Ricky Starks, Wardlow, MJF. MJF, I have said for a while now, I believe he's already signed for a couple of more years to AEW. I think that happened a while ago. The funny thing is they have World's End at the end of the year. And Adam Cole is going to be revealed as the devil. I don't know how much, people think it's Jack Perry. Could very well be Jack Perry. Honestly, like I wrote on Twitter earlier today, the Hummer storyline in WCW, I enjoyed the Hummer more than I enjoyed the devil. This is dragged on too much. This is like the human version of the Hummer. When Adam Cole, is telling, the MJF of today would do this, no, you got to do this. You should do that. And then you saw when he was sitting in the chair and he does the manner with his people did you see him click something? No shit. I could click something right now and you have no idea. I'm look, pretend this is a clicker. Look, you don't know if I'm clicking it, but if I go like this, I think Adam Cole is going to lead a faction. And who knows, it may end up be like a Ring of Honor versus AEW. I think they're going that route. With Jeff Jarrett being involved as well, I could see it you could do a Global Force versus TNA. Could have done, but it didn't work, Ricky Starks, I absolutely could see him going to the WWE down the line. I think Ricky Starks would be great in the WWE. You got to understand something, though, and this is not a knock on today's wrestler as a whole, but in this day and age, there's a balance, and working 300 days a year is not, very attractive to a lot of people. Some people are content, having a wrestling career, getting some time, getting, decent pay, getting an opportunity, and that's enough for me. Not every single person that is in AEW looks at WWE and says, oh my God, one day I'm going to be there. Yeah, if you want to become an icon, if you feel you have the tools, you could become legendary and break the bank and possibly have a Hall of Fame career, then yeah, you go there. If you're content with the schedule you have, like you see Keith Lee right now, they're doing a storyline now where Keith Lee is tired of not getting opportunity. So now he's going to take the opportunity. It's kind of like Hobbs all over again. The book of Hobbs walking around LA like, I'm sick and tired of losing opportunities, and he did nothing. He joined fucking QTV, whatever the fuck that shit was. Keith Lee, you think of the storyline he did this past weekend. I'm sick and tired. I'm going to take my opportunities. Let's see what he does on Dynamite. Let's see. Is he going to go after the world champion? Is he going to go after the international champion, the continental champion, the intercontinental champion, the intertransitional champion? Is he going to go after anybody big, or is he not even going to appear? Is he going to be the male version of Xia Li? Becky, I'll kick your ass. Okay, let's do it. On my term. And walk away. Really, where's it going to go? But for Keith Lee, if he's getting paid well, and he doesn't have to wrestle all that much, and he gets to cut promos more than he has to do matches, why not? Why not? That's not a bad thing. I don't criticize anybody who works a part-time schedule in AEW. If you're getting paid well, and you don't have to work that hard for it, and you get to spend time at home, and you get to play games, and you get to mow your lawn and fucking sleep, and spend time with your kids or whatever, go for it. But no, some people want the next level. Some people that dreamt all their lives of being a household superstar want to go to WWE. And when they see how WWE is treating not just the Codys, not just the Jade Cargills, not just the CM Punks, but how they're treating the Chelsea Greens, how they're treating even the lower card talents. Like everybody's getting a little bit of an opportunity. Some people, it's not going to work. Not everybody is going to stick. You could try, and it's just not going to work. And that's why, without naming some names right now, there's some people that were brought back and some people that have been given numerous opportunities, and it's just not working. The person who I was excited at the most, Dexter Lumis. Look what happened to that. Indy Hartwell. Remember, I said, don't bring it to the main roster. You bring it to the main roster, and then what? Double dating with Gargano and Dexter Lumis and Candice LeRae? Like, how is Indy Hartwell going to leapfrog 5, 6, 7 other women who are much higher in the food chain? And she couldn't. Now they use her the way they do, and people are like, well, she had a good match with Becky. And what did that get her? You know what I mean? All right. Thank you, Gruss, for the kind words. Trying to spread the questions around. Ryan Armstrong, where do I see Randy Orton go from here? Didn't the Usos injure Randy Orton, costing him several months on the shelf after RK Bro lost the tag titles? Yes. So would not Orton feud with Jey Uso as his first feud and match? I think there's an interesting thing going on right now. I think Randy Orton absolutely will RKO Jey Uso. I think he absolutely. The only thing that's going to be kind of goofy about it is that's like Randy's like, oh, hey, you deserved it. After what you did to me, you take it. Big difference from taking an RKO and being put on the shelf for several months, if you know what I mean. I think Randy will have some issues with Jey Uso, and that could complicate things with Randy and Cody. And then down the line, Randy Orton just get fed up and just RKO Cody Rhodes. And I think Randy Orton versus Cody Rhodes is a possibility. I still think Shinsuke Nakamura was calling out Cody Rhodes. People think it was CM Punk. People think it was Randy Orton, which really doesn't make sense. If you're privileged. Like, Randy Orton's been fucking injured with double fusion back surgery. I don't think privilege has anything to do with him not being around right now. CM Punk, I don't call it privilege. Like you got to listen to the words, Nakamura. If anybody's privileged on the WWE roster, I've been waiting for months. You were privileged. I think he's calling out Cody Rhodes. That could change. They could change to anybody they want. I think we could end up seeing Randy versus Shinsuke, but I think Randy will have issues with Jay. The question is Drew McIntyre. It's going to be interesting to see where Drew McIntyre falls into all of this. Because, like I said, people want to believe what they want to believe with Drew McIntyre yesterday. But again, this is Triple H going old school. As long as there's one camera phone, as long as there's one person with a name tag in the back or with one of those hanging, tags, as long as somebody that could leak something out, you are in character. Until you're in your room, until there's nobody around, if we're in an event, until everybody's out of the building, you act as if everything is still going on, that the cameras are still rolling. That's why Seth flipped the way he did yesterday. You don't have to be a rocket scientist to figure that out. And like I said at the beginning of the show, Triple H is not going to split his roster in two like AEW did, with half the roster livid that CM Punk is back, but it's best for business. No. TKO Group Holdings don't want a divided company, a divided locker room. So everything that you're seeing right now, this is WWE's way of blurring the lines, which makes the storylines that much more intriguing. If you believe that the person on this side of the ring really doesn't like this person on this side of the ring, maybe they'll actually potato each other once in a while. Kind of like when Edge had his match with Matt Hardy many moons ago. That was pretty wild when that match went down. We didn't sit there and go, they're just trying to make us think that they hate each other. No. If you remember what happened with Lita and WWE Bite This and all that stuff, then they did that match. We were glued, man. We wanted to see these motherfuckers really going to start throwing hands, but they weren't because they were professionals. It's not a work shoot. It's not a work shoot. It's not a work shoot. I know what you're getting at. It's not a bad thought. It's not a bad thought. A work shoot, it's storyline, but you're basing it on reality. To me, that's not a work shoot. To me, it's not. Because for the sake and the betterment of the business, WWE, WrestleMania, your contracts, your livelihood, your family, you have animosity for someone. You want to turn that into a storyline. You could bring it as part of the storyline. Wasn't there a time that Matt Riddle and Seth Rollins truly didn't like each other? They knew when they were going to have that split screen, they knew exactly what was going to be said towards each other. It wasn't like, put it this way. We're not going to get a Sunny Days remark. We're not going to get that. Here's a good one. Remember what happened with Ricky Starks and Adam Copeland not too long ago? That's when, they kind of improvised, and Ricky Starks, kind of said some, you get the deal. Let me put it this way. There's no doubt in my mind that Triple H talked to many, many, many people on that roster, especially Seth Rollins. Seth Rollins and Roman Reigns were probably number one and number two that he called and said, look, looks like we're going to bring back CM Punk. Are you cool with it? I absolutely, out of the respect for those guys, Triple H did that. Triple H did not blindside anybody. If Vince was still in charge, I could absolutely see that argument. Triple H did not blindside his main guys who have always been loyal. Impossible. Okay. Rick Ariel, is Omos not being featured right now because his name sounds too much like Hamas? No. I swear to you, I never ever thought of Omos and said Hamas. I never ever thought of that. Trust me, it took me a while to come up with Antonio Ijoki instead of Inoki for Tony Khan. It didn't just wake up, the next day and said, oh, Ijoki. Nah. I mean, the war going on with Hamas and Israel is terrible. Thank God we got 3 straight days of ceasefire. Some hostages are being released. I'm hoping that some peace could come out. The problem is that you have this mindset that ceasefire doesn't change the core, views of Hamas. How do you change that? You can't. It's fucked up. But no, WWE is not. Omos will be back on TV very, very soon. In fact, you know what? I could see Omos going after CM Punk. As ridiculous as that sounds, I could see WWE doing a match with CM Punk and Omos. I swear to God, I could see that happening. Do not be surprised if that happens. Michael Gonzalez is asking, who do I think Rhea Ripley feuds with next? Shayna Baszler. It's got to be Shayna. I think after yesterday, Zoe Stark put in a good fight. Zoe Stark, she shouldn't have been in that match, but they got away with it. It obviously wasn't the focal point of Survivor Series yesterday. Everything yesterday was about the War Games matches, and then that got overshadowed because of CM Punk's return. But I think Rhea Ripley absolutely will feud with Shayna Baszler next. Not saying that Shayna will take the title from her. I wouldn't object it, but Shayna Baszler is the next person. She's got to be the next person. Becky Lynch, you don't need to go there right now. No reason to go there right now. Oliver Norgrove, do Giants still have a place in wrestling? Big Show's knee got him thinking about his legacy and what wrestling misses with him not wrestling much anymore. Yeah, Giants are still around. We got Otis. We got Bronson Reed. We got who's the guy in NXT that they were supposed to bring up? Not Apollo. That's Apollo Crews. No, I can't. Odyssey Jones. They got Odyssey Jones. They got a lot of big boys there. Omos. It's not always the height. It's the size and the physique. They got some big boys there. Giants definitely still have a role. Big Show, I know he looks in bad shape right now. The guy's been wrestling since 1994, 95. Who would have ever thought Paul White could have even had a match 15 years later? You look at Giants and their careers, it's unheard of for somebody to have a 25-year wrestling career being that size. Good for him. Good for him. But Giants definitely still have a role. Even Piper Niven on the women's side, Nia Jax, they're considered like Giants of the women's division. Of course, they have a role still. Zachariah saying, will Randy RKO Rhea anytime soon? You could see that happening, right? Could you imagine the pop if he RKO'd Rhea? I could see it, man. I know it's off limits for the men to put their hands on a woman, but I could see Dominic getting in Randy's face and Dominic fucking RKO's Rhea. I think the crowd would lose their shit, but I don't know if they would do it. I don't think there would be that much backlash because Rhea Ripley has put her hands on men so much. That's why we remember Baron Corbin's spot so well, because that never happens. So when Baron Corbin did it, It's something we still remember to this day. But we didn't get protests over it. So, under the right circumstance, yeah, I could see Randy, RKO, and Rhea. That would be something the crowd would lose their shit over. All right. Checking out the chat, trying to spread the questions around. Going to be wrapping this up soon. When we see this, nothing against some, but when we see the same people posting questions over and over and not many others, that's when we know it's time to start wrapping it up. Does Bray Wyatt go in the Hall of Fame in 2024? It's up to the family. I think it's up to the family. The family is grieving. It has not been that long. I think if you wanted to put him in, 2024 would be a beautiful time to do it. In Philly, that type of crowd, Bray Wyatt, yeah, I could see it absolutely. It's up to the family. If the family, listen, understand, whenever Bray is put in that Hall of Fame, there's not going to be a dry eye in the room. So that's something you got to think about also. Hall of Fames are about celebration, but this is a celebration of Bray, but there won't be a dry eye in the room. It's really up to the family. And I think the family, it might be a little bit too soon. And honestly, it gets tricky because some people would say, is Bray Wyatt had a Hall of Fame career? Obviously, it was cut short. Brody Lee's career was cut short. Would you put the Wyatt family in the Hall of Fame as a group? I wouldn't really have a problem with that. I think the Wyatt family is one of the greatest factions in the last 20 years. Unfortunately, it didn't last as long as it should have. It's up to the family. Okay. All right. So you know what? We're in an hour and 42 minutes. Let's go another 5-10 minutes and we'll call it. JS is asking, have I seen the Ryback Shrek video? Yeah, I have. I don't know why that's floating around, but apparently, I don't know. I didn't look closely, so I don't know if it was computer AI or if he had an actual Shrek doll. But there was a video of Ryback kind of like making out with Shrek. And I'm like, all right, I get it. Looking for hits and views and attention. And a lot of people, I can't criticize him for it. But I was like, that? Like, why? And I think he's not the only person that's done it. I could swear I've seen other people for some reason making out with Shrek. I don't know where that came from. It's almost like you can imagine somebody like in a bar drunk, or maybe Tony smoking up on the boat, and Shrek is on the TV. Dude, would you ever? Dude, if I gave $100, would you make out with Shrek? Like, I could picture somebody doing something stupid like that. Where this came from, I have no idea. AI is extremely dangerous. It is. Let me tell you all something. There is a health company that I buy from once in a while in Florida called New Image. NUIMAGE. New Image. They sell hormone supplements. They sell vitamins. They sell fat burners, hair. They even sell Ozempic and Wegovy, if anybody knows what that is. I had no idea. Ric Flair was a spokesman for them about a year ago for their like Viagra stuff. I had no idea. I've been a customer of theirs for like 6 years. So over the weekend, they had a Black Friday sale and they had a video. And I watched the video for 7 minutes about, what was on sale and his scavenger hunt deals. And as I'm watching it, I'm looking at this guy and he kind of looks like Byron Saxton. You go on YouTube, just search New Image Black Friday sale, you'll see it. It looked like Byron Saxton. And as I'm watching him, I'm like, something's off about this guy. I can't figure out what it is. There's something's off about this guy. After about 2-3 minutes, it hit me. I'm like, this motherfucker's eyes are not blinking once. He's just there like, this Friday through Sunday, you can get Semarellin for only $1.99 for 7 days. And his eyes are not blinking. I'm like, blink, motherfucker. And I realized it was a computer. It was a computer-generated image. It wasn't even a real person. I could have sworn. I mean, I was looking at my phone, so it was smaller, the size. It was a computer-generated thing. I'm like, holy shit. Oh, my God. I mean, it's mind-blowing how realistic that looks now. So I got to see if they have hot women. And I have to get like all these computer AIs like, oh, Anthony, you were spectacular last night. And you make the image like small enough so people like, is that a real girl? Is it like I could picture people doing that. Hey, I went on this hot date yesterday. You think I'm kidding? Look, she left me a video message. Oh, Stanley, you were hot. You were amazing. All right. Bobby means, could I see Ruby Soho going back to the WWE and reuniting with Liv Morgan? Yes, I can. I think Ruby, they're running out of ideas. Ruby, they can have her in Ring of Honor. They can have her in AEW. She could date, Angelo Parker. She could date, King Kong. She could date anybody. I think they're running out of ideas. I think Ruby Soho absolutely will return to the WWE within the next 2 years. It's not a knock on AEW. I think it's just getting to the point where she's done so much there that there's not going to be much left for her to do. And I think it'll be time for her to leave. And you know what? I think when she does leave, I think it'll be good terms like Jade left. And that's not sinking ship or anything like that. But, it's pretty obvious the mindset of AEW is not going to change. They handle their women's division the way they do. And after a while, I mean, look, and you look at all the signings in 2023, look at the percentage of men to women, and you see, and you can't even count Mariah May because she really hasn't done anything yet. But I think Chris Statlander, if she is willing to work the WWE schedule, I see Chris Statlander in WWE. But if Chris Statlander is content working the schedule that she does and she has a little bit of freedom outside of AEW, I think she stays exactly where she's at. Again, not everybody who is in AEW wants to go to WWE. So trust me, there's a few people that I talk to. They're like, oh, I'm good. I'm having fun here. I don't get involved with the politics and stuff like that. There's some people that are absolutely having a great time there. They're not looking to leave. And also remember this too. Do you remember when we talked about Will Ospreay? I think it's an excellent signing for AEW. But WWE doesn't need Will Ospreay right now. If you put him out there, like, where does he fit in? Again, you got to always think, okay, now what? Once you sign him. And I don't think there was ever a chance of Will Ospreay signing with WWE right now, unless AEW was not interested. And Will Ospreay was willing to make accept an offer that WWE couldn't refuse, to give. Will Ospreay, was never, in my opinion, going to sign that. And, the formula we've talked about, we knew Will Ospreay was going to sign with AEW all along. But I think after a while, you realize that WWE may not need the person right now. And I know that's crazy to say. How could they not use? It's not that they can't use. There's only so many spots. I mean, we're not getting paranoid here. We're not concerned. But look at LA Knight. They couldn't even fit him in. He couldn't even eat a Ruffles potato chip in the back locker room yesterday. He couldn't even drive up with the fucking Slim Jim car. You know what I mean? Like, they couldn't do anything with him. No Roman Reigns, no Solo Sikoa, no Jimmy Uso, nothing. So, all right. Julie Hart is someone that I don't see going to WWE anytime soon. I think she's killing it with a character right now. She's doing a great job. But that's someone, like if you picture her going to the WWE, where's she going to fit in? Maybe NXT? Maybe NXT? But really, she goes to the main roster. How is she going to leapfrog all the women that are there already? The ones that are higher in the food chain. You know, you see what came out yesterday with Triple H with the Jade Cargill stuff. Can you imagine if Julie Hart goes there? You know, if you take away Julie Hart's gimmick, you know, how spectacular is she in the ring? She's good. Absolutely, she's good. But is she someone WWE ready? You'd be the judge of that. Okay, let's see. Death Gears, and that's spelled DETH. Which show do I think Randy and CM Punk will end up on as part of their roster? Randy Orton's got to stay on Raw. In my opinion, he's got to stay on Raw. Yes, he could go to SmackDown, and they may even tease him for a SmackDown episode. I could see Randy going against Roman Reigns at the Royal Rumble. I don't think Roman Reigns will lose to Randy Orton, but I could see that happening. Personally, I'd rather see Randy Orton in the Royal Rumble match. But Randy Orton, I personally think, has to stay on Raw. I think his interaction with Cody Rhodes is necessary. Even if Shinsuke was calling out Cody, I don't see that lasting more than 1 or 2 Raws. Maybe 3 Raws at the most. That's not leading to a pay-per-view. So I think Randy Orton has to have an interaction with Cody. So I say Randy Orton has to stay on Raw, even if he does appear on SmackDown just to pop a rating. Let those SmackDown fans enjoy an appearance from Randy. But Seth Rollins and CM Punk, you're not going to have that confrontation and then split them up. So I wonder if Drew McIntyre goes to SmackDown. Does Drew McIntyre go to SmackDown? I wonder if that happens. Somebody's got to go to SmackDown. You have 3 hours of Raw, absolutely. But they're having a hard time filling people up already. And plus, the Judgement Day, Finn Balor and Damian Priest are technically both brands right now because they're tag champs. Once they lose those titles, they're only on Raw. So you almost feel like a Raw tag team needs to defeat Finn Balor and Damian Priest so they can show up on SmackDown also. So you got to start thinking, like, who's going to dethrone the Judgment Day for the tag titles? You almost feel like it has to be a Raw team because you're not going to take more people away from SmackDown and tease them to feud with somebody on Raw for those tag titles. They really need to split those titles, man, soon. They need to split those titles. But I say CM Punk has got to stay on Raw. I feel Randy Orton has got to stay on Raw too. But I think somebody moves to SmackDown. And I wonder if it's going to be Drew McIntyre. I have a feeling it might be Drew McIntyre. Okay. Johnny Number, do I see CM Punk opening up Raw? Yeah. You kind of got it, right? It's got to be Randy or CM Punk. Like, close your eyes right now and you say to yourself, okay, what music could you see, like here, like right at the beginning? I hear voices in my head, or I could, the CM Punk. Listen, you know, again, some people that I think are reading too deep into this feel that WWE disrespected Randy Orton yesterday because he's overshadowed because CM Punk returned. I think that was strategic because Randy Orton, you might have to be very careful with after double back fusion surgery. If you go on WWE's Twitter right now, at the top, who do you think is at the top? Cody Rhodes? Randy Orton? The Survivor Series team? No. CM Punk. They know how big this is. Plus, let's be honest, maybe not as much for Triple H, but Nick Khan, I guarantee you Nick Khan somewhere is like, fuck you, kid. I have a feeling Nick Khan is probably gloating like a motherfucker. I wouldn't be surprised if we find out that Nick Khan sent a text message to Tony. Tune in to Raw Monday. I could see Nick Khan trolling Tony Khan. I almost feel like Nick Khan may have trolled him before because Tony Khan has this extreme anger for Nick Khan for some reason. And it's not just him calling him a kid in those business interviews as well. I haven't seen the new CM Punk merchandise yet. Isn't it amazing how quick they come out with that shit? You know, it's funny. I still have about 40 of the CM Punk AEW debut cards. Remember they sold on eBay for $55 a pop, $60 a pop? I still have about 40 of them. I have no idea what they're worth right now. They're probably worth $5. I honestly think the value went down. But the funny thing is, as I'm looking at my desk, we might have to start giving these away just for the hell of it. We got CM Punk ice cream wrappers. We got CM Punk ice cream wrappers. We got, they're all over the place. I have at least a dozen of these ice cream wrappers. To think like some neckbeard had his hand in here, like touching the ice cream. But we may have to start giving away some CM Punk stuff. Yeah, I still got all that stuff. I just never did anything with them. So I'm looking forward to Raw tomorrow. I'm looking forward to it. Isaiah's asking, will Triple H reduce the house shows and allow his stars to rest and spend time with their family and loved ones in the future? Yeah, they got a little bit of extra time. They get a little extra time around the Christmas period. They're going to get time for New Year's. No, they're not going to do anything different than what they have been doing. But I think also putting the frustration of LA Knight and some not being on Survivor Series, I think this is also to give some people a little bit of a break. I think they're rotating. You know, Gunther has been absent on some premium live events where he should have been on. Now he was on yesterday. And then you see, you know, someone else that LA Knight was on the past one. Solo Sikoa was on the past one. Now he's not on this one. So some people will be on every premium live event, but some, I think there's a rotation to give everybody a little bit of a break. And no, they'll get some time off for the holidays. I think Brock Lesnar absolutely is returning. Listen, remember, if you want to be convinced why Randy Orton and CM Punk will likely remain on Raw, because they still have not completed a TV deal. I wonder if anybody's talked about this in the last 24 hours. CM Punk doing Collision was one of the biggest reasons why Warner Media did Collision. How fucking crazy is it now that now WWE, whoever they're negotiating Raw with, whether it's Amazon, USA Network, Disney, whoever you want to throw in that sentence, except for Warner Media, which people reporting now are just morons. But imagine now what AEW wanted to do with Warner Media on Saturday nights. Now WWE could go to those networks and say, look what we got on Raw now. We got arguably the number one guy in the rival organization is now on Raw, and we got the return of Randy Orton as well. That is a huge deal for that TV deal. I bet you within the next 2 to 6 weeks, well, I don't want to say bet. I would not be surprised. We gotta act like a news journalist here. Never yes or no or bet. Really, you got to talk on both sides of your mouth. I would not be surprised if WWE announces a TV deal within the next couple of weeks to maybe a month and a half, because now you got and especially, what's that Raw rating going to be like tomorrow? Could they break 2 million? Remember, they hit 1.6 recently, even with football. Remember last week? Nobody talked about it. Raw last week went up against a football game that had 29 million viewers. not 4 million, not 7 million, 29 million viewers. And for the first 30 minutes, their demo, like people like to talk demos, their demo was like 0.58 against a football game with 30 million viewers. That is fucking crazy. Nobody talked about it. I don't know if WWE breaks 2 mil tomorrow, but I think that opening will break 2 mil. I think the opening of Raw tomorrow will be like 1 point. Yeah, it's got to break 2 million. Because Drew McIntyre last week, when he explained why he did what he did, was like 1.7 and change. You mean to tell me that an extra 200,000-300,000 are not going to tune in to see what CM Punk has to say? Is he going to he ain't ripping AEW, my friends. He is not ripping AEW. He's not going to give any reason for AEW to try to fucking get attorneys involved. It ain't happening. I would love for it to happen. I would love to hear the pipe bomb. It is not going to happen. There might be a little teaser, but it's not going to happen. But I think tomorrow overall, I don't know if the overall rating will be 2 million. I think the overall rating will be maybe 1.8 million, 1.7 and change. But I think that opener is going to break 2 million. We'll see. On Wednesday, for Wednesday Night Dynamite, we will do the weekend ratings. We will break down Raw. I will have all the info for you. We'll see how the ratings did. So, do not see Jon Moxley returning to WWE anytime soon. Nope, not now. Jon Moxley is very, very happy being in AEW. He's given a lot of freedom there. His wife works there. He is having fun there. Jon Moxley is not going to WWE right now. Never say never. Never say never. But Jon Moxley, his love, you see his matches. He would not be able to do those matches in WWE. You know, that's why some people you would never see in WWE, because that's just not their style. I think, listen, truthfully, I think Jon Moxley will be back in the WWE one day. You know when that day will happen? When Jon Moxley, right now he says, my body's, the doctor told me my body's like a body of a 70-year-old. That's fine. You know when he goes back to WWE? When a doctor or a psychologist says, you have the brain of a 10-year-old. Meaning that when his brain starts using common sense and says, I can't do this style anymore. I need to reel it in if I want to continue doing what I love to do. When logic and common sense kicks in and Jon Moxley says to himself, self, you can't fight like this anymore. You got to go back to the Dean Ambrose style. Maybe amped up a little bit. And that's when he returns to WWE. All right. I'm trying to get everybody's questions in. I'm trying to spread it around too. I don't want it to be like 10 questions, 15 questions with one person. So Rick Real, CM Punk segment could do 2.5 million, but then the rest of the show goes down. 2.5 million is crazy, man. Roman Reigns wouldn't even get 2.5 on Raw. I mean, yeah, it's CM Punk. I mean, but nah, I see CM Punk 2 million, at the most 2.1 million to open Raw. If he wrestles tomorrow and they announce him for the main event, you might be able to get 1.9 for the whole night. But I just don't see it. There's 3 hours. So if you announce him for the main event, I could see from 45 minutes in to 2.5 hours in, those ratings drop. When we looked at Gargano last week, if you follow me every week with the ratings, you know what I'm saying already. Gargano, Kaiser, again, there's some people, Natalya, again, there's some people, no matter what. Xia Li, Becky Lynch, again, Xia Li. matches with Xia Li, unfortunately, fans, no matter how good some of these people do, fans are not into it. Dragon Lee and Axiom, the match that everybody orgasmed online. And I loved the match too. But I even said, I bet you that rating was not good. And 100,000 fans during that match tuned off. 5-star, 4-star, 4.25 star. Last week, the biggest segments rating-wise on SmackDown were non-wrestling. Damage Control's confrontation. Grayson Waller going at it after the match with Cameron Grimes with somebody. Like, there were a couple of segments that had nothing to do with wrestling. Santos Escobar's promo from the week before. The physical confrontation with Carlito, even though the live crowd wasn't into it. There's a lot of little things, non-wrestling. I don't think Triple H trolled yesterday. I think Triple H spiked the football, but that's a pretty big score. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, Cody Rhodes, arguably the most important person behind the scenes that was involved in AEW that was a wrestler. Cody Rhodes, arguably that biggest person. Jade Cargill, arguably the number one women's prospect in AEW. Even though she's green, still. And now CM Punk, the biggest merchandise seller, the biggest ratings draw, the biggest, person. And I got to say this. I got to say it. I think it's fair. The bitterness from Brian Alvarez and Dave Meltzer today, really, I got a chuckle out of it because they did a YouTube video earlier today. They got good views out of it. But when they first titled it, they wrote, "He's back in the WWE." Like, they couldn't even write the word CM Punk. And then they ultimately changed the title later on. But there's some people that have this personal vendetta against individuals. And, it's kind of sad to see it. But the interesting thing about it now is, unfortunately, a lot of these news guys don't have those elite personnel in the WWE that's going to leak information that is going to stir shit up. They're just going to guess. They'll talk on both sides of their mouth. They don't know what the deal is with Drew McIntyre. So they'll say, there's some legit frustration, but, chances are it's a work. Blah, 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 blah. Common sense. Triple H is not going to turn his roster upside down. So there's legitimate concern. There's a little legitimate, based on what happened in AEW, but blah, 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 blah. There's always a but. There's always never say never. It's, it is what it is. But, just to see that the media doesn't have, listen, one thing that CM Punk's return proved is that 99% of the media out there do not have the connections that they claim that they do. I had somebody throw that Boozer moron in my face yesterday, and he's not a bad guy, but guessing is not reporting. And when you guess, you have a 50-50 chance of being right. And when you get 6 things wrong and 9 things right, doesn't make you a legit reporter. That means you guessed 62% of the time right. These people guess. It's a 50-50 shot of getting it wrong. But it's a 50-50 chance. That's why I did the sausage stuff last year. For those that don't know what the sausage stuff was. Last year, for about 4 or 5 months, I was putting, I don't want to say fake news, but when things were happening in wrestling, I was putting up, my sources tell me, sausage. My sources I always wrote sausage so people knew that I was just showing you this is how reporters do it. And when Brock Lesnar walked out, when Vince stepped down, Google it if you think I'm making it up. When Brock walked out of SmackDown that night, when Vince stepped down, I was sitting in a diner eating dinner, and I went on my Twitter and I said, sausage. My sources tell me that Vince McMahon texted Brock Lesnar and said to him, if you walk out of WWE, you walk out on everything that I built. I still own majority of this company. Do not walk out of WWE. And then sure enough, Brock came back in, showed up on SmackDown at the end, tipped his hat to Vince, and everybody was reporting. Don Tony of the Don Tony Show reports that Vince McMahon reached out to Brock and said, if you walk out of WWE, you walk out on me and everything that I have built. Please do not leave. I just use common sense. You think Vince called up Brock? Let's go to a strip joint. Damn it. Fuck him. No. Common sense. Sausage. I did that, I think, for like 15 articles last year, and I got 14 of the 15 right. Wasn't reporting, just showing everyone how it's done. So I have to admit, it was kind of fun. Some journalists did not like me for it because they thought I was telling the truth. They didn't understand, like, why is he showing pictures of sausage? If you go on my Twitter, just search my Twitter, @DonTonyD, type in the word sausage. You'll see pictures of the sausage. It'll be like, why is this sausage? All right. Did I happen to see, thank you, Theme Parks with Johnny, happy 2-year anniversary, being a channel member of the family. Did I happen to see Triple H, how many views Twitter's video on CM Punk got within just a half an hour? Yeah, they've got millions, man. Listen, I say this as a wrestling fan. I've been a fan since 79. I've seen a lot of surprises over the years. I've seen moments I never thought I would ever see. I can honestly say to you that yesterday, CM Punk's music hitting, as the camera was going to the wide angle, and they were like literally centering, and you saw on the bottom, like Survivor Series press conference next, and you see like they're adding some extra sentences and they're going wide angle, and all of a sudden you see, and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? And then my thought was, shit, I put on Twitter that these more people that didn't know how to answer like Wheel of Fortune, they're smart, and I was like, look, I don't mind being wrong, man. I never thought he would sign this soon. I've always said that he was returning to WWE. It makes sense. It's what's best for business. And what I want to find out, though, is that he signed for $1. If anybody ever saw the movie Trading Places with Eddie Murphy and Dan Aykroyd, that's what I want to find out. I want to find out that, like Dan Aykroyd, CM Punk is Dan Aykroyd, and Eddie Murphy is Triple H. And he's like, here you go, $1. Like Triple H gives CM Punk, thank you very much. And just have Tony Khan, my heart. If you saw Trading Places, you know what I'm talking about. Is Trading Places a Christmas movie? I think so. I don't want to end the show. I don't want to end the show yet. Nobody's left. I mean, I know 90% of my audience accesses audio only. Who needs to see my fat face? We could just listen. People like to meditate. They like to walk their dog, work, listen to my shit. So, not everybody's on video. I know for some shows, it's the opposite. People try to rub it in my face. Did you see what this show got? Yeah, because 90% of my show audience is audio, But I'll stick around a little bit longer. Everybody who's live, just show up in the chat. You got question, post it. I just don't want to answer nothing against people posting quiet. I just don't want to answer the same person every time. That's why we stopped calls, because with all due respect, the same people called in every week, and I started getting a lot of complaints. Oh my God, this person again. Oh my God, this person again. So let's spread it out a little bit. Twix is always getting my good side. Did I see Seth Rollins' reaction? Was that real or was it work? Twix, just like anybody else out there, in the news, podcasting world. None of us hang out with Seth Rollins. But as I said earlier, there's no way that Triple H brought CM Punk back and did not tell his roster. You do not do that. You don't do it to a guy like Seth Rollins, who has been the MVP, arguably, of Raw. You don't do that to Roman Reigns, who had issues with CM Punk. You know, this is all discussed. And let's also remember this. CM Punk coming back to the WWE has been a rumor for a couple of months. Triple H does not wait until he has the call with CM Punk to then talk to his roster. I guarantee you that over the last couple of months, Triple H has talked to Seth Rollins. Hey, you know, what do you think if, you know, I talked to CM Punk, you know, down the line? You know, how would you feel if he possibly came back? I'm sure this was discussed amongst a lot of the wrestlers over the last few months. And Triple H got a vibe from some of them and said, you know, before this, you know, this has got to happen or this has got to happen. You know, look at Hulk Hogan. I mean, it's not the same, but my point, a lot of people felt that before Hulk Hogan was brought back to a WWE event that there was a few people that he needed to address and talk to. Some people accepted his apology. Some people did not. So I believe what we saw yesterday was 100% prepared. That CM Punk was not blindsided. If anybody today says, my sources tell me that CM Punk had no idea that Seth was going to react that way, bullshit. Bullshit. Cody, Zimpulse is asking, is Cody still finishing the story at WrestleMania? You bet your sweet ass that he is. I'm not taking drugs. This is my cholesterol pill. I have to take it like 2 hours before I go to sleep. If I take it with my sleeping pills, then I'm wired all night long. Don't ask me why. Elroy, why did Drew McIntyre storm out of WWE? Because everybody would talk about it. Drew McIntyre is not aligned with Judgment Day. The team lost. Drew McIntyre is angry. Jey Uso won. Drew McIntyre left, pissed the fuck off. You don't just gradually walk to the back. He had to storm out of there. So CM Punk did not walk out as Drew McIntyre was going to the back. Drew had to speed it up a little bit. Drew had to get out of there. But he left the way he did because people were going to talk about it. That's why he did what he did. Easy peasy. Like I said, you just look at it in common sense. They practiced for weeks for this War Games match. They didn't just wait until a week before and say, hey, Drew, you want to be in War Games? This was prep for a while. So they knew what the match was. They knew what the end game was. They knew what the outcome was. So there's no surprise. We didn't get a Chicago screw job yesterday to Drew McIntyre. You know, Drew screwed Drew. You're like, no, he knew exactly what was that. No, there's nothing. There's nothing. The reason why some people are going that narrative is because they're trying to already tell you that WWE has not reached out to Drew for a new contract yet. Well, what's the fucking rush? Because I'm reporting it, damn it. What's the rush? His contract doesn't run out until next year, deep into next year. Why do they have to do? Since when does WWE, a TKO Group Holdings, or any corporation have to negotiate a new deal 3 months, 6 months, 9 months before a contract ends? Why? Because a news reporter says it has to? You know, you got to let that sink. So now, since they've been using this Drew narrative, now Drew walking out, oh, that kind of like adds to my story. Don't buy it. Roddy. What's up, Roddy? Come on, guys. Shouldn't Cody join the NWA with the 10 pounds of gold to really honor his dad's legacy? He already had the 10 pounds of gold. He already had the NWA championship. Listen, I've been a fan since 79. That's not to rub it in, but I want to make a point. I could promise you, in 1979, when I bought wrestling magazines and bought back issues from 76 and 77 because I was enamored with superstar Billy Graham, trust me when I tell you, none of us, even though we were young, none of us, whether reading the magazines, being a fan from the late 70s on, Kev, if you want to post it in the thread for the Q&A Tuesday before the thread closes tonight, Kev will bring it up too. None of us ever at any point ever thought Dusty Rhodes was supposed to win the Worldwide Wrestling Federation Championship. When Dusty Rhodes came to New York in the 70s and the 80s, he was here as a special attraction. He stood for a couple of months. He was extremely popular, arguably one of the most popular, but he was never a regular where he was here 6 months, 9 months, a year. If Dusty would have been in New York for a year and he didn't have the championship, that's a different story. But he was only in New York for a few months. So none of us ever at any point said, oh, why didn't they give the championship to Dusty Rhodes? That was never in the cards. If Dusty would have signed a contract and stood for a year or two in the 70s, that would have been different. But because WWE is the number one biggest prize in the world, and the fact that Dusty never got that opportunity, never was, wooed to come to the WWF for an extended period of time, only until after it was way past his prime and they gave him polka dots. Cody wants to be that first Rhodes to win the championship. Plus, Dusty did so much at the end of his life to help the Stars of Tomorrow. In NXT, he was beloved. Even when he was in TNA for a short period of time. I had friends that worked in TNA at the time, and they all fucking cherished Dusty Rhodes. Little things that he would do. He was always looking to help others. So doing this as a celebration, not only for Cody, but for Dusty and the Rhodes name, and to put it on the level, of the Flairs, and that's a big deal. So there's a lot more involved, but I can tell you with 100% certainty, Dusty Rhodes, no one ever thought that the idea of him being a Worldwide Wrestling Federation champion was never. Even when he feuded with superstar Billy Graham, there was always a count out, a disqualification. There was or some screwy finish. It was never clean because you didn't want Dusty, jobbed. You didn't want, just a straight up pin. There was always antics involved. Guardian of Chaos, who would I book Punk with to start his run? Well, I said earlier, Seth Rollins is going to cut short CM Punk's talk tomorrow. I just don't want to see goofy Rollins. I can't answer that yet. Tomorrow night, we'll have a better idea. And the reason why I can't answer it yet, and it's not a cop-out, is we don't know how the WWE is going to handle Seth Rollins going forward. Personally, it's going to be interesting because Seth Rollins, I don't think he's going full-blown heel. I think Seth Rollins, when he cuts a promo on CM Punk, he's going to talk about how he has broken his back for these fans. You just walk in. You walked out on them 10 years ago. You walked out on the WWE Universe 10 years ago. I think Seth is going to get a decent amount of support from the fans. We were in Survivor Series was in Chicago yesterday, not we. And so obviously the buzz was going to be that much more regional, but CM Punk is going to get an insanely positive pop tomorrow, but we got to see how Seth Rollins is handled. I don't think they turn him heel. But if Seth Rollins wants to go full-blown heel and snap, then I could see, CM Punk being more of a baby face, and then he could fight his Dominic Mysterios. He could have a match with Finn. I think Vinci is an easy squash, and there's a lot of other possibilities. But I think Seth Rollins, and remember this is something that WWE's thought about for a while. So they're not just in 48 hours deciding, okay, we're going to go this route with Seth Rollins. The way Seth Rollins is handled tomorrow is going to give us a real good idea as far as CM Punk. One thing is for sure, Seth Rollins, it'll get very personal. I think he will defend that he never left WWE. I think CM Punk at sometimes might be kind of tongue-tied. But I think there's going to be a crazy pull apart as well. Who knows? Maybe they tease a match against each other almost immediately. Wouldn't that be something if they did a match for the World Heavyweight Championship tomorrow night? Let it end in a clusterfuck. Let the Judgement Day get involved. Let it end in a clusterfuck. I don't want that finish, but you give a little teaser. Let's see if they do that. I don't think they will, but okay. CM Punk versus Riddle happening, or is it just smack talk again? Matt Riddle, it has some legitimate angst towards CM Punk. He has some legitimate angst towards CM Punk. Riddle is right now is just more playing up to the buzz online. Yeah, Matt Riddle having some jokes like you thought I was a problem. You're signing CM Punk. He's just playing, having fun with it. He's about to become a dad again. Him and Misha are about to have a kid. So it's more about planning for the kid, which is happening in a couple of weeks. So yeah, I don't read much into that. Don't read much into that. They have some mutual friends too. So. Do I think Randy Orton is going to have the most title wins before he's done? No, I don't think so. For Randy Orton, I don't think it's about stats as much. I think his legacy, no pun intended, is, just the length of his career and always working at a top level. I don't think it's really about stats with Randy Orton. That's why I think we may even see Randy Orton feud with Gunther. I think it's possible that Randy Orton, feuds with Gunther. That would be pretty fucking wild. Wouldn't it be something if Randy Orton took the title off of Gunther? Would anybody have a problem with that? All right. All right. I guess we'll keep going. Everybody's still hanging around. We'll keep it going. We got to wrap it up soon, though, because not everybody's going to be able to digest a 3-hour show, especially tomorrow night. We got to recap Raw, and, we got to talk about everything that goes down. We're also got to talk about what happens with Tammy, with the sentencing. And then Tuesday's a big night. Kevin and I are going to do Survivor Series, and then after that, we're going to record the Q&A. And, that's why we're asking everybody to keep it to like a question or two at the most, unless it's a rapid fire deal. Because, we can't spend 6 hours doing shows. He just got off being sick with the flu. So we can't have a 4-hour banger. But Gunther, his WrestleMania match against Randy Orton, it's possible. I think Randy has not had a one-on-one match yet. I could see Gunther trying to expose Randy Orton's back. Bringing up the double back fusion surgery, that's something that could very well be tied into a storyline. If you look at Gunther's arsenal, look at how he beat Miz yesterday. Sticking the knee in the back, that was spectacular. He put him in a Boston Crab, and Miz was trying to pull the ropes, and then he got to the center of the ring, and then he stuck his knee in the lower back of Miz. Oh, I could see Gunther doing that to Randy Orton. I can see Gunther sticking that knee into Randy Orton's lower back and fucking having trainers coming out. Shit could, the more I think about it, I'm buying. B is asking, do I think we'll find out this week why Cody was at SmackDown last week? Probably not. You know, they never explain why Becky was allowed in War Games. You know, if we're really splitting hairs with the storyline, why would Nick Aldis allow a Raw women's star beat up on his SmackDown women? Everybody in that match was SmackDown except for Becky Lynch. Why would Nick Aldis go along with that? Why would Nick Aldis, when you think about the dissension with him and Adam Pearce, they never explained why Becky Lynch was allowed to be in War Games to beat up on SmackDown women. So if they didn't explain that, why would they explain Seth Rollins? Cody Rhodes. Yeah, I think at this point, Randy has a big say on who he works with. And I'm sure as Randy was nearing a return, there have been discussions as far as who he could face and who he could feud with. And, you know, there's quite a few people on that Raw roster. I'm just happy that he's back. We've been kind of spoiled the last couple of months. The Rock makes an appearance. John Cena comes back for a little while, does a decent job. Now we need Brock Lesnar to show up a little bit. And then we get Mercedes Moné in 2024. And I think, you know, shit'll amp up a notch. I think we'll get a few people sign with AEW. I think Dolph Ziggler is a lock. I think Matt Riddle ultimately will show up in AEW. I think Mustafa Ali is a good possibility. Yeah, they're not on the levels of the other guys I mentioned, but still, you know, it's going to be a good next 6 months. I would say the next 2-3 months is going to be really good. So, Drunk Guy says he's bet that I have met Tammy also. Yeah, many times. I don't know what your point is, but listen, the Tammy that I knew was not this drunk disaster that she turned out to be. It's a shame. It's a tragedy. You know, I don't think anybody should celebrate tomorrow. I guarantee you the family that was affected, the person who died because of Tammy, I don't think they're going to be celebrating. This is a tragedy. This is someone who, you know, could have arguably gone down as the greatest WWE diva, not saying wrestler, women's wrestler, the greatest WWE diva in history. And she just blew it. She blew it. I don't want to use it, but...
Knock, knock. Who's there? You blew it.
Yeah, she blew it. It's just, it's insane. But I've said before, how she got this many chances, I think is something that needs to be discussed as well. I think Pennsylvania and I think Jersey has some explaining to do. Unfortunately, I don't think the news media will give a shit. I'm not talking about wrestling. I'm talking about mainstream news. I don't think they give a shit. But I think some of these judges that gave her a slap on the wrist many times, I think, you know, they should be held accountable as well, but there's no way to do that. So listen, by this time tomorrow, we'll know what the sentence is. And, you know, like I said, I think it's going to be 12 to 16 years. So, all right. Rocky Red, what do I think of the scenario? Damage Control boots Bayley, dumps Dakota Kai, overpowered the two. WrestleMania, Sasha returns, saves Dakota and Bayley. I don't see Dakota Kai getting physically involved right now. If she was able to do anything, believe me, she would get physical in some capacity. She's not that far off for a return. But Dakota Kai's got to be the mouthpiece for the Japanese girls because they're not, you know, they're not known to speak English. Even if Asuka could talk some English, Dakota Kai is the mouthpiece. You're not going to take that away unless you're going to put someone else in the group that does speak English fluently. And I don't see that happening. I think Bayley will ultimately align back with Charlotte and Becky. And, you might see Bayley, Charlotte, and Becky versus Damage Control. That could be next on the horizon. All right. Do I think WWE and Endeavor have any plans to do partnerships with New Japan? I don't think so. And it's not necessarily because AEW is doing stuff in New Japan. I just don't know if it's needed. Listen, I watched some of that press conference yesterday, and I don't care how pretty a woman looks. I don't care how neat a guy looks. I don't care how business-like your outfit is. I don't care, how your hair looks. At the end of the day, you pretty much do what a lot of some people that were there were legit wrestling news. Some people there were podcasters living a dream. And, I praise the people out there that bring up New Japan and bring up Shimmer and bring up Stardom and bring up Yoshi, bring up Tashi, bring up this and that. At the end of the day, Raw is only 3 hours and SmackDown is only 2 hours. You could fucking bring anybody you want. Taking in money is great. How much are you putting out? But when you're a billionaire 10 times over, it doesn't make a dent. But, for WWE, at the end of the day, you don't hear investors. You ever hear an investor say to WWE over the years, Mr. McMahon, would you ever consider working with Shimmer? Or what do you think about the Japanese influence of bringing Stardom stars here? No, they want to see the fucking bottom line. They want to see the numbers at the end of the day. And WWE's not going to sign people because it gives a news reporter that warm, juicy feeling inside. If it helps the roster, yeah. Everybody talks about Julia. I've seen her work. She is special. Then I say to myself, okay, let's put her on Raw. What's going to happen? All right, maybe she can beat Rhea Ripley. Then what? Okay, let's put her on SmackDown. Oh, we got Bianca. Oh, we got Charlotte. Oh, we got Io Sky. Oh, we got Asuka. Oh, we got Kairi Sane. Well, we could wait till the draft till next year and to even it out. Bringing people aboard is great, but once they're there, what do you do? What do you do? And that's the thing. It's very easy to say, would you ever consider signing someone from go? And then you bring them in, but they never say after, okay, genius, now what do we do with the person? Where is Sheamus? He is in his hotel room. He's sleeping. It's 10:45 p.m. He goes to sleep at 8. I have no idea. Now, Sheamus actually will be back on SmackDown either this week or next. Sheamus is getting involved in the Ridge Holland Butch storyline. Ridge Holland walked out on Butch again this Friday, and Sheamus will now get involved. And Sheamus will try to make the peace. I don't know if it works. It might be a temporary Band-Aid, but it kind of sucks that they're splitting up the Brawling Brutes. I like Fight Night. I think it works well. The crowd still loves it. Why change it? It feels a little forced. They're forcing the Imperium split because they want they want Kaiser to take on Gunther. Why split them up? Why? There's no reason to. So why split up Butch and Ridge Holland? I know in NXT, their ratings are abysmal at times. For some reason, they don't pop numbers. But I still think that the live crowds are into them. So I wouldn't split them up. Tristan's X-Men, favorite faction of all time. Oh, boy. Favorite faction of all time. In ECW, the Triple Threat. In WCW, I want to say the Four Horsemen, but, the NWO, man. The NWO was just, it was just crazy. The NWO is different. Like the Four Horsemen, it's a faction, but it was usually 4 guys. Then you had Paul Roma, and then you had, some decisions that were kind of like, eh. In WWE, my favorite faction, probably the Wyatt family. I mean, don't get me wrong. I enjoyed D-Generation X. I enjoyed the Heenan family. I mean, we could go back a ways, but I have said this many times. There's no one close that I have bought in as much merchandise from the Wyatt family. Like I say, I always show them, but they're always sitting here. I mean, I have 12 to 15 of these Wyatt gift boxes that I've never opened up, that are sealed. All over my room. I look around.
Knock. Who's there? You blew it.
Sorry about that. I got fucking Yowie Wowie Jam. I got Bray Wyatt stuff behind me. I got water bottles on the floor. Wyatt family, I don't think it comes close. It sucks that they weren't around that long, but probably the Wyatt family. Trust me, there's so many factions over the years. I mean, there's been many, but the Wyatt family, I think I've enjoyed the most. So, Evolution or the Four Horsemen for him, Evolution was good. It was just too dominant by Triple H. It was kind of funny seeing the limousine and seeing like Ric Flair like making out with women, and I'm like, he's as old as beyond my father at the time. Like Ric Flair wasn't a spring chicken at the time, and they were doing an Evolution, the music videos and stuff. But you know what? It was pretty cool. I still can't envision Evolution with Mark Jindrak. When I saw that clip with Mark Jindrak, I was like, nah, I don't think it would have worked. All right, let's bring this home. It's starting to get a little late. Let's bring this home. So let's wrap this up in 3 minutes. I want to thank everybody for joining me tonight. It was a lot of fun. I appreciate it as always. Keep supporting DonTony.com. That is the lifeline of what I do. Honestly, without it, I just would not be able to afford to run these shows. Downloading those shows not only keeps me relevant, but it keeps me visible amongst all the charts out there. And, it's my numbers are so spread out that, it's not in any one area. So that's why, sometimes it gets a little difficult to even compete with other shows out there. But, as long as you tune in, spread the word, definitely much appreciated. I'm glad, it's funny. I was gone for 5 days and I thought, tonight was going to be kind of like, I got to get back in the mindset, the swing of things. But we watched Survivor Series last night. I thought it was a banger. The CM Punk shit was unexpected and really surreal. Because all it kept going through my head was, if Tony Khan just would have stepped up and just read the riot act to all these guys and told them, look, you can't get along or you can't do business, get the fuck out of my company. He's left with Jack Perry, whether he's the devil in disguise or he comes back as a woman or he comes back as his father or if he comes back as Luchasaurus Jr., if he comes back as whatever, it's still Jack Perry. Child. He's a grown child that I will never accept the fact that he was part of history. Wembley. He had the opportunity to fight Hook, and all he had on his mind was, I'm going to fucking use glass, rub it in CM Punk's face on camera so millions of people could see it. And he fucking goes on camera. It says, Cry Me a River. And at that particular moment, that guy wouldn't even, if I had like a daycare center, I wouldn't even have him dressed up as a clown entertaining the children. That is someone I would have fired immediately. We have history. 80,000 people. All right. Let it fucking go. He breaks glass, cry me a river. You're fucking fired. So I hope Tony is happy that he has Jack Perry and WWE now is CM Punk. That's my honest take on it. That's how I feel as a wrestling fan. He should have stepped up and stopped this from happening. Yeah, I get a little tired sometimes of holding back a little bit. You know, you got to be careful in 2023, some of the things that you say. But, you know, at this point now, you know, I don't give a shit no more. I tell it like it is. I mean, I'm not going to make any friends. I'm not going to make friends by kissing ass. So I just tell it like it is. All right. 2 more questions and we're out of here. Let's see. I don't think Tony Khan fired the wrong person. I think Tony Khan should have prevented this from happening. And I personally think, Tony Khan didn't even say to CM Punk, let me handle this. Please go out there, have a great match. I will deal with Perry. I will deal with Jack. He didn't even do that. He stood in the gorilla position, soaking in that they had that many people at Wembley. You know, he just did not take the initiative. And CM Punk did what he did. I think CM Punk should have been the bigger man and not done what he did. But this is all Tony Khan's fault. And Tony Khan, I hope he's happy with Jack Perry. Plain and simple. Oh, you know what? Again, you know, I'm not going to go too hard on Tony Khan because I have some people that I'm friends with over the years that if you get angry near them, they're like, oh, please don't hit me. Please don't. Like, they just like get scared shit. There's some people that are like that. You know, like they'll be walking and the street light goes out. Like, I just think Tony Khan, you know, is not street smart. I think he is, you know, he is soft. I hate to say it like that, but do I think he feared for his life? I don't know. What the fuck could CM Punk have done? What could he have done? I'm trying to look. Do I have any weapons here? Tony! Like, what did he do? Why? Because a monitor almost fell into him? All right. Let's get out of here. I'm in a jet. I want to thank everybody for joining me. Tomorrow night on Raw, don't forget, Randy Orton will be appearing. CM Punk will be appearing. There's a whole roster that'll be appearing. So it's not going to be just about those 2 guys, but keep this in the back of your mind. Isn't the next premium live event the Royal Rumble? If that's the case, there's no premium live event in December. That is an awfully long time to go between now and the Rumble. So some championship matches absolutely will be happening on Raw and SmackDown. So that's something to keep in the back of your mind. We have no premium live event in December. So some of the matches that we think absolutely would be good for the Royal Rumble may happen sooner, because Royal Rumble is not for another 6 weeks, I think, 7 weeks. It has to be, I would say 7 weeks. That's a lot of time. And, you know, WWE sometimes gets a little lazy. You know, if you remember Drew McIntyre was supposed to be the number 1 contender to Roman Reigns, and then Sheamus shows up, and then for some reason they're going to have a match, and then Sheamus, I can't have the match. And next thing you know, 4 weeks went by, and it was like, this could have been settled in 1 week. We may see something like that. You know, teasing this and teasing this and teasing this, and realize 3 weeks just went by, and we're like, we really didn't get much accomplished. So I hope you all enjoy Raw. I hope you enjoyed this stream. I thank you as always for the support. And I hope you can join me tomorrow night after Raw. I'll be here live at 11:05 p.m. Tuesday, Kevin and I will be recording live on our Patreon channel. That's how we always do it. It's only fair because they help us pay the bills as well. But as soon as the show is done, as long as it's not too late Tuesday night, I'll edit. I'll get the show online. Survivor Series review will and Aftermath will definitely be online late Tuesday night, Wednesday. And then later in the week, we'll post the Q&A episode and we'll get into everybody's questions. So I noticed not too many CM Punk questions. So Kevin and I may have to add a little CM Punk commentary there. But definitely going to be a good show. That I promise you. So I'm out of here, everyone. Much love as always. I'll catch you all again soon. Be well.
As far back as I can remember, I always wanted to be a podcaster. For me to live any other way was nuts. To me, those goody-good people who worked shitty jobs for bum paychecks and took the subway to work every day and worried about their bills were dead. I mean, they were suckers. They had no balls. If I wanted something, I just took it. I ran everything. I paid the bills. I paid the host. I even paid the masked maniac. Everybody had their hands out. Everything was for the taking. We always called each other good fellas. You would always hear from somebody. You're gonna like Don Tony. He's all right. He's a good fella. He's one of us. But if you're part of my crew, nobody ever tells you they're gonna get rid of you. Doesn't happen that way. There weren't any arguments or curses like in the movies. See, your haters come with smiles. They come as your friends, the people who've claimed they care the most for your life. And now that's all over. And that's the best part. Today everything is different. There's lots of action. I don't have to wait around for everything like everyone else. Oh, I didn't get the vaccine? Fuck you, vaccine me. Oh, your delivery guy has COVID? Fuck you, feed me. Right after I moved here, I ordered egg noodles and ketchup, and I got spaghetti with meat sauce. I'm no longer an average nobody, while they get to live the rest of their lives like a bunch of schnooks.